recording? You go ahead and start. Yeah. Well, usually you hear the sound. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, Good evening, everyone. We're going to start off with NRTA before we get into the select board agenda. It's the so-called order of the Nantucket Regional Transit Authority Advisory Board to order. We're going to start off with the ratification of appointment of the NRTA administrator, Gary, who is our NRTA administrator. It's just a technicality. We didn't technically approve his appointment. So we're just doing that. This is retroactive back to January 23rd. So it's just a formality.
Motion to ratify his appointment
Yep. Back to January 23rd.
to January 23rd.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Request for approval of the FY24 NRTA operating budget. Gary, anything you wanted to review really quick at all? Or do you have any questions from the board?
It didn't change from last week or the week before, did it?
Yeah, did it change from
The
before?
total numbers haven't changed at all. There was some line item changes. The state budget hasn't been completely released yet, so the SCA numbers are still up in the air where they're at. It could increase. I'm confident the numbers that we put out there are a minimum. So I mean, it was basically just moving around some line items. No change from what was said.
And Gary and I met this morning for an hour, kind of reviewed it, and I feel confident that it was really no major changes. Probably only in the increased revenue from the state would be the only change.
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes. Now there's a request for approval of revenue anticipation note, RAN, and associated documents for FY23 and or FY24. Do you want to give us just a brief?
I mean, the only thing I can tell you on the RAN was that the net cost last year was 0.8%. The net interest cost has jumped up to 3.8. That's after discounts that are available. The numbers came in at 4.75 and 6.0% between the two bidders. With inflation, the costs are up, the rates are up on everything, and it's a large increase, but it's something that has to be done to, without having forward funding. It's something that you're required to do with the RTAs to cover your funding until the state reimbursed on all your funding. So
Any questions for Gary on that?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes unanimously. There's no other business. Anything else from you, Gary?
I have nothing. If there's any questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the NRTA meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Gary. Okay, we'll call to order the May 17th, 2003 Select Board meeting to order. No changes to the agenda that I know of. Announcements, Libby?
Well, we have one important announcement that is not on the agenda, and that this is Jason's last meeting. And he has been a great chair and a great member of this board for 6 years, and we're going to miss him.
Thank you, Don.
Jason's been an incredible mentor to me as a new select board member, and I've appreciated serving under your chair, you as chair, and observing you leading our meetings. And I can't thank you enough for your leadership and your guidance for me personally and for the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to add, I think you've been a great leader. You've kept the meetings going. I am one for usually very short, brisk meetings, and given we had 300 pages to go through, I think you've done a great job.
Thanks, Matt. Matt, you don't have to say anything. Don't.
I was going to say, do I have to say something?
No, you don't.
You've taken a lot of bullets. Better you than me.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you all. I was going to say some stuff at the end of the meeting. We'll keep going.
Okay, I suspect there might be a little bit of public comment in a minute. So this meeting is being video and audio recorded. The annual town election is scheduled for next Tuesday, May 23rd. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the high school. And we have annual Nantucket Police Department Appreciation Awards. Chief Pittman is going to come down to the mic. We are going to all come up to the front here. And the chief is going to review the each award along with the individuals who are receiving it and a brief description of the circumstances for them to receive the award.
Go this way. Then we can come back this way.
I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's kind of step out of line here for a second, but I too want to thank you for your years of service. You've been a big supporter of the department. And I think back at the last few years, we didn't have this award ceremony because of COVID. If people understood what you as a board and town directors went through and did during that period of time, you'd understand why we didn't have time for these ceremonies. And your leadership, along with Dawn's and the rest of the board during that time, was extremely appreciated by those of us that were in the trenches. These awards are for incidents that occurred in there's one incident from back in 2021 where that was resolved in 2022. But the police officers have been involved in many, many different things that people don't see every day in the newspaper, and they certainly don't hear the end result. And unfortunately tonight, because of some instances are involving juveniles or whatever, I can't give you the full story, but I'll give you enough to know that you'll be able to recognize the individual that did a good job. The first officer will be Derek Witherell. I don't believe Derek was able to make it tonight. He's given an award for exceptional duty. This commendation's in recognition of Officer Witherell's work as it relates to NPD case number 21-7786. This was a forcible rape case where both suspects and the victims were juveniles. The case was resolved in Nantucket Juvenile Court with a guilty plea on all counts of assault and battery, indecent assault and battery, and rape. A review of the case indicated that Officer Witherell devoted a substantial amount of time to put the case together, bringing it to a successful conclusion. Officer Witherell earned the Exceptional Duty Award for a highly creditable accomplishment, bringing public acclaim to himself, the department, and the police profession as a result of his training, devotion to duty, and service to the public. He is authorized to wear the Exceptional Duty Award ribbon on his uniform. So congratulations, Detective or Officer Witherell. The next award is going to go to Detective Amanda Schwenk. This is a letter of commendation. This commendation is in recognition of Detective Schwenk's work as it relates to NPD case numbers 22-1848 and 22-1904. In February 2022, Detective Schwenk received information from DEA Special Agent Kelly Munger that the DEA had information regarding trafficking of suspected fentanyl through the U.S. mail to a suspect at a Nantucket address. A coordinated investigation, coordinated, quite frankly, by Detective Schwenk, involving the Nantucket Police Patrol and Detective Divisions, the DEA Cape and Islands Drug Task Force, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Barnstable Police Department K-9 Unit, and the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit, resulted in the securing of a search warrant, which resulted in the arrest of a suspect for multiple drug trafficking charges. Items seized during this investigation included 8.6 ounces of marijuana, a quantity of MDMA, which is known as ecstasy, 690 methamphetamine pills weighing 247 grams, and most importantly, and very scarily, 874 fentanyl pills weighing 94 grams. That's enough to kill everybody on the island if they just had a piece of that. Detective Schwenk has earned this letter of commendation for her outstanding investigative work, working with multiple agencies, and no doubt potentially saving many lives by preventing these drugs from making it to the streets of Nantucket. Congratulations, Detective. This next award goes to a group of employees. It involves citations recognition of the dispatchers who work as it relates to NPD case number 225862. For some people, that's known as the Veranda House Fire. On July 9th, 2022 at 6:49 a.m., dispatcher Camille Noble answered the first 911 call reporting the Veranda House Fire. As she was advising them to evacuate the building, dispatcher Kyle Gomes was dispatching the fire department to the reported location. At 7 a.m., dispatchers Teresa Egger Anderson and Megan Smith came to work expecting a normal day. And shortly afterward, dispatcher Jessica Norris, who was called in to work, arrived to assist. The dispatchers are responsible for many aspects of the public safety response, including assisting the fire department in locating fire hydrants in the immediate area, coordinating with the Wanacomment Water Company, National Grid to shut down power in the area, working with patrol officers to evacuate homes in the area, shut down streets for public safety reasons. They also assisted in locating guests from the Veranda House who had fled the building, as well as assisted callers with information regarding donations of clothing, food, etc. Due to their training, calm demeanor, quick actions, and professionalism, the firefighters and police officers were on scene within minutes. In total, the dispatchers fielded 278 phone calls, as well as assisted several walk-in customers handling requests for service from the harbor master's office, airport, sewer department, police department, fire department, and EMS incidents between 6:49 a.m. and 11 p.m. that day. They have earned the Public Safety Service Award for their credible accomplishments that brought public acclaim to the department and the public safety profession as a result of their training, devotion to duty, and service to the public. Receiving this award are dispatchers Megan Smith, Jessica Norris, Teresa Egger Anderson, Kyle Gomes, who's not here, and Camille Noble. Congratulations, Megan. Thanks, Vince. The next recipient is Sergeant Jacqueline Hollis. She's currently away at training. She was a detective at the time this incident occurred. She's been promoted to sergeant, and she's calling in on the Zoom behind me. This is commendations and recognition of Sergeant Hollis's work as it relates to MVD case number 228318. Throughout 2022, the Mid-Island area experienced a series of motor vehicle break-ins, resulting in thefts from motor vehicles and thefts of motor vehicles. In this particular incident, a vehicle was broken into and stolen. Sergeant Hollis responded and processed the interior of the vehicle for fingerprints, ancient technology. Sergeant Hollis successfully lifted a single fingerprint from the center console of the vehicle and submitted it to the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab. Crime lab technicians were able to determine the fingerprint was from the right middle finger of a known suspect. This resulted in a suspect charged with use of a motor vehicle without authority, breaking and entering with intent to commit a felony, and unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle. Sergeant Hollis's efforts in this case show that taking the time and going back to basics can have its rewards. Utilizing basic crime scene investigative techniques and careful attention to detail resulted in a successful closure of the case. Sergeant Hollis earned this letter of commendation for her outstanding investigative work and demonstrating to our many young officers that paying attention to the basics will still solve crime. Thanks, Sergeant Hollis.
Thank you, sir.
This award is going to be a letter of commendation that in recognition of their work as it relates to NPD case numbers 22-10-845 and 22-10-877. Throughout 2022, the Mid-Island area experienced multiple random motor vehicle break-in complaints, resulting in multiple items stolen from the vehicles. Day shift officers James Olson, Joseph Taroni, Farrell Deuce, and Nicholas Torino. I think Farrell Deuce had been here all of about 3 days when this happened. They had suspects in mind, and while interviewing one of them, they observed suspected stolen items in plain view. The suspect was further questioned at the police station, admitted to several of the crimes, and identified an accomplice. Detective Schwenk then obtained a search warrant resulting in the recovery of several of the stolen items. 2 suspects were arrested and charged with breaking and entering into a motor vehicle in the nighttime, larceny, and receiving stolen property. These officers have earned this letter of commendation for their outstanding patrol and investigative casework by engaging basic patrol procedures and investigative skills to solve crime in our community. Receiving this award is Detective Amanda Schwenk, Officers Joseph Tyrone, Officer James Olson, Officer Nicholas Torino, and Officer Farrell Deuce. Congratulations, officer. Congratulations. Congratulations. Double good job.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Nice work. Of course. Thank you. Good job about.
Okay, the final award. This is a life-saving award. This award goes to Officer Joseph Taroni. This award is in recognition of the actions taken by Officer Taroni that resulted in the saving of a life. At 10 a.m. on June 30th, 2022, Officer Taroni, along with Trooper Klaus from the MSP, were made aware that a person had passed out while riding his bike on a bike path on the Milestone Road. CPR was initiated by Jen Decker, a citizen who witnessed the incident. Upon their arrival, the police officers took over care of the victim to include continuing CPR and activating the AED device that Officer Taroni had in his police cruiser. After shocking the victim once, the victim regained a heartbeat and began breathing. Care was then turned over to the NFD, who transported the victim to NCH and ultimately was medevac to Boston. Both Officer Taroni and Trooper Klaus, along with Ms. Decker, were honored by the Egan Maritime Foundation at the annual Lifesavers Recognition Ceremony last August. The victim, Mr. Stephen Aris, was present to express his appreciation for their quick response and professional training. He is authorized to wear the life-saving ribbon, which is red and white, on his uniform. Congratulations, Officer Joseph Tyrone. Good job. And that concludes our awards. And again, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen and the town manager for their support of the police department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chief Pittman. We missed that. We missed these awards. Ready?
Thank you, Chief, and congratulations to everybody. And thank you for your service. The next item, we are going to hear from our Transportation Program Manager and Public Outreach Manager, as to the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission's long-range transportation plan. They have a survey going around, and we have a public engagement initiative associated with that. Is Mike here or?
He's online.
Oh, he's online. Okay. And Florencia too, I think. So Mike, you want to go first?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Well, I got to apologize for the sound of my voice. This pollen level is taking a toll to me. So if you can bear with it, I'll try not to sneeze violently during the presentation. Thanks for the time at this meeting and to briefly go over the efforts to update the long-range transportation plan and share how the public can participate in the process by demonstrating the Zen City online public outreach platform. The long-range transportation plan, or next, please. Thank you. The long-range transportation plan helps achieve the mission of the Nantucket Planning and Economic Development Commission, or the NPDEC. For those who don't know, the LRTP is a federally required, physically constrained long-range transportation planning document updated every 4 years that guides major transportation investments for at least the next 20 years or to the year 2050 for this planning cycle. This plan describes the region's vision, goals, implementation strategies. It also describes the current conditions and desired future transportation system. The graphic on the right is the cover of the current LRTP approved by the NPDEC in June of 2019. This is set to expire at the end of September, which is the deadline for this planning effort. Next, please. The updating strategy being presented at this meeting follows a three-phased approach of visioning, prioritization, and public review. It also involves the NPDEC conducting 5 meetings there at the bottom to review plan material. The first step of the LRTP updating process is the visioning phase to review vision, goals, and existing conditions. This strategy was reviewed by the NPDEC at their April 24th meeting, and a visioning survey, as Libby mentioned, was launched the weekend of town meeting on May 6th. The next meeting of the NPDEC is May 22nd and will be used to continue the discussion of the vision statement. The June 26th meeting will be used to review visioning survey results and finalize the vision and goals, and then begin reviewing priorities for realizing the vision and goals. This will kick off the prioritization phase, which will gather feedback through another round of surveying on any big ideas and investment strategies to realize the vision. The public review of the draft plan will be from July 21st to August 21st, when the plan would be approved by the NPDEC along with any final edits to the draft. And as demonstrated with the gray arrow going through the slide, staff is making every attempt to gather public input during this very condensed updating strategy that we'll be using the town's Zen City public outreach platform to share recorded presentations, collect survey responses, and provide opportunities to comment on draft material. Next, please. The current NPDEC vision for the transportation system was, like I mentioned, approved June of 2019. It's shown here at the top of the slide in black. And that vision is to equitably and legally limit vehicles on Nantucket while providing a transportation system that is safe, accessible for all users, economical, and sensitive to the character of the island. An example of a more succinct way of saying this is shown at the bottom in red and describes what the system could be in the year 2050, which is a safe, accessible, economical transportation system with vehicle limitations that is sensitive to the character of the island. So how is the NPDEC gathering input from the public? Florencia Rulo will discuss that. Florencia?
Thank you, Mike. So yes, as Mike mentioned, and I think that when I was at the select board meeting back in, I think that it was the end of November, I spoke a little bit about Zen City, that is our Engage platform. It allows us to build project pages, and actually this was our first project page. So thank you, Mike, for helping out. It wasn't very easy at the beginning to understand, but basically the idea is that So the NPADC, as Mike mentioned, is seeking to gather public input. We are using Sun City for that. The page itself, the project page, is very easy to understand. It has a timeline, has a video of the LRTP, long range transportation plan presentations, important documents that we'll be updating, and it invites the community to participate by taking a survey. It's a very quick survey, very easy to understand, very mobile friendly, so anyone can take it from their phones or a computer. It's in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And the type of outreach that we've been doing is started during ATM. Actually, we created business cards that we've been handing out to people. It has a QR code or a link to access the survey. And as I said, English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And the idea is that we'll be creating more of these type of surveys for the LRTP page that I invite you all. If you haven't actually seen right now, participation has been great, but we still want to gather more responses. This survey will be open until the beginning of June. So if you haven't, please take the survey. And to access to this survey and future projects, you can also visit www.nantucket-ma.gov/engage, but it is actually all throughout our social media, the town's website, and future projects will be available in this link that I just mentioned as well. So, sorry, I have landscapers that just showed up. I apologize for the background noise. But I am here to respond to any questions that you might have. But as Mike mentioned, I think that he explained much better than I can about this project in particular, but I just wanted to remind the community that we are looking forward to gather feedback from the community and input, and the page itself, the LRTP page, will be updating it. We hope to have a couple more features that are not at the moment, for example, a map, so people can click on it, leave comments regarding to specific areas of the island, but we'll be communicating at future meetings and also in social media. And that's all I have. Just I'm inviting you all to take the survey. And actually today, since I'm here, we open a new survey for Chief of Police Search. So it's also English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Please take them. We want to hear from you.
Any questions on the board for Florencia or Mike?
Just are the Portuguese cards available at the Plus somewhere where I can pick some up?
I'm sorry, if what is available where?
The Portuguese version of the little cards. Are they available?
No, those are not just yet, but we will have them soon.
Okay, thanks.
Tomorrow, probably. Yeah.
I have a question. How many surveys have been filled out? It's been what, a week and a half or a little over a week? How many have come in? Do we know?
Yes, I can tell you right now. Actually, I think it is a little bit over 500.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yes, great response.
Mike's gonna be busy.
Mr. Chair, just to give reference, I think when we did a survey in 2019 during the last updating cycle, the survey total there was about 450. We've set it a very ambitious goal of hitting 1,000 survey responses to compete with the state and Mass DOT's visioning survey that was conducted last summer. They had a little over 1,000 responses. So I think if we can meet that, I think that goes a long way to showing how good it is that the material that the communications staff has developed to help advertise this outreach, and how effective the Zen City outreach platform has been to encourage public participation in the process. So to double, quadruple, triple this participation, it's I think a demonstration of just how effective this platform can be.
Well, that's impressive. It's already at 500. I was not expecting you to say that, Florencia.
No, I wasn't either.
Actually, 525 as in right now. So hopefully by the end of the meeting, we'll have even more.
Great work. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just want express appreciation to Florencia for this. This is one of the outcomes we've been hoping to achieve through our communications division of town admin that she is in charge of. So thank you for that. Our public health director is going to give us an update on the short-term rental registration program implementation. I think Roberto is online.
Yes. So just real quick, we recently connected with Granicus this last week to go over the timeline and the process. They have received all the information they need from us. So they are in the process of building our website. The client, the user interface, so that people can start registering their properties. The projected start date that they sent to us was late June. And if things go well, right when that opens up, we would be able to, they are going to take the initiative to send the letters out to every property that they have through their web crawler. And we are also having them send it out to all of our local realtors, real estate agencies. So we should be able to look forward to that this coming month at the end, by the end of next month is the timeline they gave us. So that's more clear information than was given to us at the last update. So it was really good for us to be able to get that information to you. And I wanted to just keep that one short and sweet. So I'm more than happy to have questions.
Thanks, Roberto. Any questions from anybody? Nope, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roberto. We have some upcoming committee, board and commission vacancies. The information is in your packet and it's also on the town website. And there are a lot of volunteer opportunities out there for people. The board's timeline is in the packet too, with respect to its committee appointment policy. At your meeting next week, you'll be reviewing the names of applicants, and ultimately appointments will be made on June 28th. Last week, I might note that a question came up about whether or not the committee that was endorsed by town meeting to look at a town council form of government could be added to this. There are still some unanswered questions about that committee, like what's it going to be called? How many people will be on it? What's its mission? Who's going to staff it? So those really need to be answered before we can get too far with advertising, but it's on our list of things to get at. So we've had a lot going on in the office lately, especially with town meeting follow-up.
Thank you, Libby. Is there any select board announcements or comments to start?
I'll just follow up on what Libby just said. What's the timing of the new committee where we can actually make appointments? I know there's work to do.
Well, we need to determine what the name of it's going to be. How many people do you want to have on it? Who's going to staff it? Some of that can be determined later, but we just need to get it on your list there. And it sounds like a simple matter, but I don't know if anybody's been in the office lately. We had a lot going on in there. And we've had some absences lately and staff shortages and lots of other priorities to get at. So hopefully within the next week or two, we can get it in the queue of
Okay, good.
committee
So
applicants.
it would come up with the 28th appointments, June 28th.
I don't think it's going to make the June 28th appointments at this time.
But if it doesn't, it'll be
Soon after.
that.
Yeah, I mean, what do you want to call it?
Right. How many members are there going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe think about that, and we could maybe even add it to your agenda next week, so some of this stuff can be determined.
Yeah, I'm all about adding things to the agenda for next week. Thank you, Tucker. Any select board announcements, comments? Okay. Follow-up comments from prior select board meetings. Libby, we didn't have any today, did we? No. Okay. Public comment. Is there comments for items that are not on the agenda? Let's go ahead.
So Denise Cronow, Chair of the Finance Committee. So Jason, this being your last meeting, I've organized a flash mob. That was it. I can't flash or mob, but I just wanted to say it was really a pleasure to work with you. Sir Isaac Newton said it better, which is if I have seen further, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Thank you for being the giant of community service here in Nantucket. And I look forward to you joining FinCom.
Thank you, Denise.
Amy Baxter. I'd like to continue on these comments as Jason's last night. And I apologize that I'm not going to be as eloquent as I was at 3 a.m. in my head, but I'm going to try. A couple weeks ago, Jason and I had coffee and, talking about his time here, he started to talk about projects he'd wanted to work on that we've talked about, and he wasn't able to check off everything on his list. He said, oh, that pesky COVID thing kind of got in the way of some things, but you weren't able to check off your list. And I said to you, that's not the important list, Jason. I might cry a little too. I'm going to tell you my list for Jason. If you know Jason, service is what he's about. Ever since I met him, I think when I came back full-time 10 years ago, I don't even know. I mean, I saw him everywhere doing everything, giving, flowers out to people who, do something for the community at every sort of nonprofit. I mean, he lives in an alternate universe that has 80 hours in a day, clearly, because he also has businesses, full-time jobs, a beautiful wife and daughters that he's devoted to. So I've always admired his just incredible service. And the day he pulled his papers for this, I was thrilled knowing him and knowing how he is. I have to admit something is I don't really like Wednesday nights. It's no offense to here, but you guys have it worse. This is difficult. This is a close community. You see everyone you talk about here, everywhere. It's tough. I have mini breakdowns every Wednesday over a bowl of popcorn when I go home. So it's a tough night, and I'm only part of it. These folks are pretty much volunteers doing this, and the amount of time they put into this, I don't think most people understand. And that's had an incredible impact on me. So I have a couple words that I just wrote down. That's the important list. When Jason started, and then when he became chair, he really kind of changed my life as far as my career is concerned and my approach to Wednesday nights. He was incredible with reaching out, asking questions before the meeting, having us understand and working with us, collaborating with staff. Wednesday night wasn't like, oh my God, what are they going to ask? What it's going to be? The amount of time he spent, I cannot even tell you. All the people that have been gracious enough to compliment me after a meeting saying, great job. Do you know the hours he spent with me prior to that? Talking about everything, not making a decision, but saying, okay, what are the issues? What are the sides? What do you got? Okay, we'll put it this way so that he can make the meeting move like you like to do, like we all like to do, so that the people that needed to speak had the time to speak, that we got through all of that. And so I approached Wednesdays with a little bit more, okay, I know what's coming. I know what I can provide to you. You've said I provide good packages between Erica and Jason. I knew what you needed. That I cannot even tell you the difference that made in so many of us, is knowing we had someone to collaborate with. You would say to me and others, what's your goals? What do you want to accomplish? How can I help you? Huge. That made me actually want to do my job better. That approach makes you want to work harder. We're not here for the fame, fortune, and glory. We're here for our love of Nantucket. My colleagues who just do an incredible job. There are other reasons that we're here, and Jason appreciated that and brought that out. And I'm still here, sorry for some people, but still here a lot because of Jason and how he approached that. His leadership, he taught me how to be a leader with staff, even at Handlebar, and through the way he does that. My staff, they have a line and they're stressing out, and they've got fingerprints and they've got beach permits and they got things on top of it. I go down and sell beach permits because someone criticized that, but they needed the help. I'm not going to sit in my office and not do it. Jason did that. A long line, he gets up and he'll sell your coffee. He'll do what you get in with the staff and do that. And I literally heard his voice in my head when I saw the face on some of the staff saying, I need to get in there and do that with them. I need to champion them. That's how you're a leader. His voice told me that. No judgment. He's had a lot of tough things. You all have recently, a lot of tough things and a lot of tough decisions. And these folks are not their decision. They're not the yes, they're not the no. It's everything that goes into the fact that they're willing to sit up there and listen and do this job. And I've talked to Jason after a lot of these really tough meetings. He's never once passed judgment on anyone who said anything bad about him. He might have been upset with the level of discourse or, I don't know, the usual stuff. Never once did he say anything against any other side against him. He felt his decision based on what was brought to him was correct or even not. it was never about taking anyone down. And he's always taught me, and I've gotten better at this, believe it or not, to listening to all sides and understanding there is another side, and learning to collaborate, learning to, sometimes that comes back to bite me, but I appreciate it because again, your voice is in my head in those moments. And I just like to say, listening, learning. If he doesn't understand something, he's committed to learning, reading, teaching others that he can. I can go on for days. I'll say something about this job and what they're doing. When I was in corporate finance or I was in sports and entertainment, you had a very specific target audience. I knew who I was marketing to. Very targeted. You get into this government thing, okay, this one wants a 15-minute parking spot. Then this retail store wants, 30 minutes is good. The retail here wants an hour because people need to try stuff on, and the restaurant wants 2 hours, right? You can't win. You put the 45-minute in the middle and hope at least most people are happy. That's kind of the approach, and that's the difficult part of it. And I appreciate all of you and the decisions. This isn't easy, especially in this community. Yeah, I think, we'll leave it there and say that I look forward to our coffees and talking about anything other than this, and going back to your motto of hugs, handshakes, and high fives. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Courtney Bridges. I am here tonight also to celebrate Jason's last meeting as chair and 6 years of what my daughters and I call girls' night, because this is where Jason is once a week, and I'm so proud of the work he's done. I know he's really proud of some tangible pieces like the strategic plan and other very exciting points of business. But similar to what Amy said, I think that the real work that's been done over the last 6 years of being informed and helping citizens be informed has been really exciting to watch. And I get to do the silent scream on the roller coaster as I sat next to him for the last 6 years on select board. And it's been really interesting, very exciting. And I think that if we can all take a little piece of Jason's legacy and continue it on, it would be that if citizens can continue to be informed and ask questions and participate, then the community can be a better place. And that's why we're all here and tuning in, and hopefully more of us will be here and tuning in for the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
Brian Daigle, 2 Catherine Lane. I should have written something down, but I wanted to also say thank you to Jason for your dedication to this town, your leadership. It's been pretty unprecedented. I think historically speaking, during your tenure here, for this town to have gone from ordinary tasks to taking on COVID. And this extends to most of you that were also on the board. I feel like with your efforts with the Board of Health and of course the leadership with the hospital, your ability to keep us safe and keep this island habitable in unprecedented circumstances historically was probably one of the most difficult times that this island's ever undergone. And I think if there hadn't been a formal thank you or applause for your efforts, we were all pretty lucky to have the leadership that we had. And with that coordinated effort with everyone, I know that more time and dedication was needed, and we were pretty lucky to have you. And in addition to that, whatever I couldn't catch online, I know that you were, on Facebook, I think twice a week, recapping what was talked about and discussed, and taking questions and taking comments and and disclosing, being open with people, I think, again, was leadership that this island has not ever seen before. And whether they know it or not, I think this town is going to miss you being in this room. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, you go to Janet Schulte online.
Hi, Jason, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to tell a story that when I was the executive director at the Chamber of Commerce and you sat on the board and had the role of honorary mayor, one day you quietly suggested to me that I should run for select board. I turned around and said, look in the mirror, and thank God you did. I want to thank you for your leadership, your clear communication, your ability to share information, your calm presence and patience throughout your service on the select board, and particularly in your role as chair and your ongoing support of the strategic plan. Thank you, Jason, and best wishes for your early retirement. Well, I don't think you're retiring from public service, for your next step into your public service role.
Thank you, Janet.
Tucker Holland, citizen. It's no coincidence that significant progress on the housing area has happened on this island during a time period that coincides with when you came on the board. I want to say thank you for your leadership on a very hard subject for a lot of people. And I'm grateful. And I'm not as facile with words like Denise and Amy and others have shared with my own. So I'm going to borrow somebody else's. A guy named Ralph Waldo Emerson, who has some connection to this island. To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know one life has breathed easier because you have lived. This is to have succeeded. To one of the most successful people I know. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Tucker. Thank you all for those comments. Yes. Yeah.
So sorry, I'm kind of losing it here. Jason said to me a number of years ago that he felt bad about the allocation for housing one year. I think it was $600,000 that came through the budget that year. And he said it was one of his regrets. And you've seen us through to $8 million of recommended funding this many years later. And this community owes you a debt of thanks because you're a big part of why we're where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke. I'm trying not to respond in public comment. We're not supposed to say anything back. Thank you all for these comments. I was going to say a little bit at the end, but I really enjoyed my 6 years here, and I've learned so much. Selfishly, I've been able to learn how to listen better, how to, compartmentalize how you feel about something passionately and truly listen to someone else, because there is some truth to what they're saying. And I've had my mind changed at times. That's challenging to do. And somebody was saying, asking me like, what do you want to be remembered for? And I started going through like, well, I was involved in housing and I was trying to think of all these different projects. And it hit me. I just want to be remembered as someone, if the majority of people can say, I didn't agree with him all the time, but he was fair and he listened, then that's kind of what I would want to be known for. And that was always kind of my goal, was to listen and then listen some more. And I think that's what we have to do up here. And that's challenging sometimes when you feel passionately about something, but I've really been lucky to sit on the first majority of women on a select board for the last 3 years, with Rita and Melissa and Christy Parentella and Brooke and Dawn. Was pretty amazing. And what we've done in housing and coastal resiliency, if I think about what wasn't happening 6 years ago, it wasn't just me, but I got to be a part of that. It was pretty amazing. DEI department started, and then what a couple of you have alluded to is getting through COVID. That was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my professional life, was to try to listen and understand one side that felt fear for their life and the other one that feared for their livelihood, because they were 2 or 3 or 4 checks away from not making the rent. And we all did that. We were all on the phone. Everybody who's on the select board, town, we didn't know what we were getting into. And it was, I think it made us stronger. It made me stronger. And so I thank you for everyone that I got to work with. And I feel like I'm ending the meeting right now, but still got a ways to go today. But I think
Always ask for adjournment.
you could. But I appreciate all the comments tonight. I really do. I've loved this job. I really saw it as a job. And yeah, thank you. Is there any more comment tonight that's on items that are not on the agenda? I don't see anybody online.
And not about Jason.
And not about me.
There you go.
Okay, I think we'll move on. There's no new business that I'm aware of. Can I get a motion for approval of minutes, payroll warrants, and treasury warrants?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Citizen Department Committee request, the Finance Department request for approval of Clean Water Trust notes for sewer force main project. We have our Finance Director, Brian Turbot.
Yeah, thank you. And congratulations, Mr. Taylor. I'm sure you're going to go on and do more wonderful things. Maureen, would you put that up for me, please? So what you have before you tonight is a request to authorize interim loan notes and in the amount of $27 million through the Clean Water Trust. This is for the sewer force main, the third sewer force main. Going to be interim loan notes to finance the beginning of the construction that's already been started. Within the vote that was in the packet is also the ability, when the trust closes this pool, to be able to convert to bonds, because this is through the Clean Water Trust. It's at their discretion when they close the pool and sell the permanent financing. So we would request that you authorize the issuance of the interim loan notes, and then in accordance with the vote of the select board that's on the screen behind you.
Questions or comments? Motion?
Motion to approve the vote of the select board as written in the packet.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next up is the Nantucket Conservation Foundation request for a waiver for town noise bylaw from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. for Bash in the Bog to be held Saturday, July 8th, 2023 at the Cranberry Bogs, Milestone.
So these two requests are for traditional one-year nonprofit events that we that always request a noise waiver for their annual gala at both locations. Is there any questions on that?
Any questions on the Bash in the Bog?
No.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then the Nantucket Boys and Girls Club. This is an annual, they come every year for their noise bylaw from extended to from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. for the Tim Russert Summer Group.
Correct.
kind of the same.
Correct.
issue.
There's some
Yeah.
10 areas and a lot of it indoors, but yes, we do this just to cover that.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Amy. Okay, we're on to our public hearings. We have 9 of those. Thank you, Amy, for making sure we get all the public hearings in my last meeting. We'll open a public hearing to consider utility petition from National Grid. This is for a 2 to 3 foot conduit across Hulbert Ave at 50 Hulbert Ave. Libby, do we have somebody? Oh, do we have Tim Wyford?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Tim Whiteford, National Grid Electric, 100 East Ashland Street, Brockton, Massachusetts. As previously stated, National Grid is petitioning for approximately 30 feet of 2 3-inch conduits and 2 new handholds to be installed on Hulbert Ave from existing pole 17 onto the property of 50 Hulbert Ave, and this is for new service.
Any questions for Tim? Okay. Does anybody want to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passed unanimously.
Motion to approve
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously.
with any conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, second one, public hearing to consider utility petition from National Grid, Nantucket Electric Company. This is for another 2 to 3 foot conduit across Surfside bike path. This is 65B Surfside Road. Tim?
So for this second petition, National Grid is petitioning for approximately 20 feet of 2 3-inch conduits and 1 new handhole to be installed on the side of Surfside Road from existing pole 28-50 onto the property of 65 Surfside for new service.
This is a public hearing. Any comments from the public? Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes 5-0.
Motion to approve subject to conditions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes. Okay, we're going to open a public hearing to consider utility petition. This is National Grid, another 2 to 3 foot conduit across Fairgrounds Road. This is at 71R Fairgrounds Road.
So for this last petition, as previously stated, National Grid is petitioning for approximately 30 feet of 2 3-inch conduits and 1 new handhole to be installed across Fairgrounds Road from existing pole 22 onto the property of 71 Fairgrounds. And this is also for new service.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone here to speak on that? Okay,
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing to consider application for multiple amendments for seasonal all alcohol beverage restaurant license for the Beachside Association LLDBA Summer House.
Before you get going, Jason, I'm gonna step aside on the rest of these pretty much.
4 to
1 to
9.
9, they're either customers, were customers, or I'd like them to be customers. So like 3 or 4 of them already are, so.
Okay.
uh,
Anything you want me to cover on comments at the end?
No, I might sit and watch.
You might stay?
I
Okay.
might stay, yeah.
Okay, there's multiple amendments here. Which one do you want to start with, Amy?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. So the first hearing is for the multiple amendments for the Summer House Bistro. The multiple amendments include an alteration of premise and change of manager. I also included the change of manager for their additional location at the Summer House as well, because I wanted to include these all together. Now, the alteration of premise is similar to what we've kind of come here to have the past few months, was a continuation of the continuation of the COVID related extensions for the areas that were added during COVID to add seats. In this location, they added seating on the beach, which is adjacent to the approved pool and patio area. So there's a couple of things to kind of address with this one application. As we've been doing, obviously, with all these that have come in, we include any issues or any violations or complaints we've had in the past 5 years. I included just a sampling of them to kind of support some of the points here. In the interim, we've been discussing with the applicant some of these complaints and some of these issues that we've had with the town. We've also received, of course, many letters from those that enjoy the summer house and the bistro. And I wanted to clear up a couple points as to what our concerns were and clarify some things. Folks thought we were opposed to extending seating onto the beach area. I wanted to, if I can, just read into the record what I sent to the applicant today to clarify what the points are. My thoughts on this and what we can do tonight. They also had requested as well this past week if they can just continue using it with the extension granted by the state for COVID-related extensions that they so kindly did at the very last minute this year when they had already submitted it. So I addressed that in here if there's a question. So basically, no one in any capacity of the town is opposed to seats in the sand. It's a beautiful location. My own family's enjoyed dining there. That is not the point we are making in the comments that we've included. It is about the lack of proper management for years and well beyond the 8 years I have been in this position. When I started, it was told to me some history in this location of just difficulty with management and inspections. This location, along with the main building and previously another property owned by this applicant, 29 Fair, have really led the town in violations or non-compliance on every level. I included a sampling of town communications and notices that we have given out, and it's not all the notices, but the ones that I have for the past 5 years, as I do with other applications. This application also includes yet another change of manager that we did also last year for the licenses. What I wanted to do here is publicly confirm he is aware, and I've done this in person, of the responsibility here and commits to proper communication with the town and inspectors and is aware of the required codes and laws for operating the liquor and food establishment. The manager last year told me the same thing. Everything's going to be great. It's changing. There'll be no issues. As you can see from the portion I did include, that was not what happened. And we can certainly take questions on those issues. We are talking about here basic entry-level requirements. We have no reason to deny this change of manager, but it must be made public that we have this agreement, and failure to comply will have consequences. Again, these are not any extreme requirements we're asking for. It's the basic health code. It's the basic fire code that everyone, all of the 102 licenses have to comply with, and other businesses as well. And in this case, I say the temporary extension for one more summer can happen with these conditions, or again, the permanent alteration that they're applying for here. No increase in capacity, which they've said that's fine. They have just switched around seats for the beach area. I have to confirm again the plumbing code occupancy, which we believe is 200 seats. Whatever that final number is, that's the number. If the health department requires a further waiver or other conditions with kitchen facilities, that must be completed per the conditions. Inspection should only be scheduled if you're ready per the list of requirements you have for health, building, and fire. One of the communications I included just demonstrated how every year, and every inspector will tell me this, they are not ready for these inspections and they have to continually return. We just don't have the time to keep doing that right now. And they've opened my first year, I think, without the proper health permitting because they had reservations that weekend. We can't guarantee they can come right back for some of these things. The inspectors are very willing to, hey, if it's not something that's going to affect public health and safety, we'll issue the permit. You have 30 days to make the condition. So they allow for that. They aren't, holding things up for anything of that sort. So we're asking for that. Again, all outstanding fines, which they are addressing, that's great, to be paid as every single license has to do. Again, a reminder, they're common vicular, which requires food service. We ran into this last year when the kitchen was closed due to violations. The manager wanted to just open the bar and serve liquor, which is not part of the contract there with a common vicular. Again, if they just wanted to go for the extension, I don't think they're going to do that. It would expire after this year and they would have to come back for a full alteration. So again, we'll ask the applicant as they want to proceed. Again, as mentioned above, the occupancy must remain the same. Any addition of seats would require the permanent application and possible further review by the Board of Health. That adds seats to the plumbing, that adds to the kitchen facilities if they're adequate for serving that number. So that's why the comments were made by Health that if they were adding 60 seats rather than taking 60 seats as what we required in COVID to put on this area, it would require further review. So that's what that means there. They're proposing to have the 10 tables with 6 tops, so 60 seats on that beach area, which they own. Great, that's fine. But those seats are coming from that total of 200 or whatever that final number is. That number should stay the same wherever those things are located. We don't have opposition to that beach that they own as long as, again, additional seats are handled the way they have to be handled. I think I was talking to the sewer director, there's some sewer pump issues and things of that sort. So that's why we focus on those numbers. Again, and of course, traffic issues, parking. So additional seats adds to all those things. And again, this is in a very much a neighborhood. So we want to make sure that those things are considered. So we would request that, again, if that were to change, they have to go through that process to add any additional seats. If it's just the moving around, I don't think anyone opposes as long as all of these inspections are done properly. Again, I think all that would apply. And again, what I said to them is it would be our wish to be one and done with this inspections and not have to keep going back, have to keep asking for fees that are due, have to keep asking for that. It's a lot of time and we're just not able to do that. So all we're asking for is to meet in the middle. Ms. DeBenedictis, the owner, has, this year, has assistance from an attorney that has helped with filing of all the paperwork. Of everything got in on time as far as the paperwork this year, and we greatly appreciate that. So that's a step. And I know last year was a very difficult year for her personally, and we understand that. But this has been as far as the on-site management is concerned and making sure they understand the great responsibility they have. And that the manager who is here this evening understands, Sergio understands, and he said that and has great background. This is nothing against Sergio at all, just making sure he understands what we're asking for. So I think I'll leave it at that and see if the applicant wants to speak or if you have any questions on what I just said.
Do you want to take this one at a time, take them as separate, or do you feel like they're all together?
Well, the one for the Bistro is it's a multiple amendments application. What you'll do is the public hearing is for really just the alteration of premises. That's what's required for a public hearing. Change of manager, as you know, we usually do at the beginning, is just a sign off on that sort of situation. So what I would probably ask for, and you can come back to me when you're ready to make motions, is a motion on the multiple amendments for the Summer House Bistro, the alteration of premise and change of manager, and then a motion for change of manager for the Summer House Inn. Okay, because they have to change the manager of both. It's actually 2 separate licenses.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that 3 motions? The manager for 2 different places and the alteration of premises?
It can be, however, the way the ABCC has it, it's a multiple amendments application, but we can deal with it each one. But if it's,
I just feel like most of the discussions tonight's going to be on the alteration.
That's fine.
And understanding how that all is going to work, because the change of license,
correct.
I think that's not a pass through. We have to vote on it, but it doesn't seem like a main issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Any way you want to deal with that, we can. And when you come back to it, I can certainly.
Okay. Well,
give
it's
you that
public hearing, so
information.
we hear from the public and anyone else here. Go ahead.
Curtis Barnes. In getting ready for this meeting, I looked at this application and then I looked at the violations that the health department, there were 5 fines last year for violations, and I believe part of it was related to this area. So all I'm saying is if you're going to give them what they're asking for, and if they have violations again, I would strongly recommend that you have a suspension, a substantial, not a 1 day, but a substantial suspension to make sure they pay attention to the rules this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Curtis. This is a public hearing. Can we go to Mayo Stunts online?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for letting me speak. My wife and I own 20 Ocean Avenue, which is right next door to the Summer House Bistro. We've been there over 20 years. We've
Can you
raised
please
our
state your
kids.
name for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Mayo Stunts.
Okay, thank you.
Again, my wife, STUNTZ. And we've lived there for 20 some odd years. We've raised our kids and grandkids. It's a lovely residential neighborhood. When we got the certified letter about the expansion and application, we were quite concerned. It's a lovely residential area, and I'd like to comment on two issues that are particularly problematic for the neighborhood. We don't need to go into the health violations or the problems in dealing with coastal dunes, which all of us have to deal with that are there. But I'd like to talk about parking and noise. There's no off-street parking for these properties, and it creates a real mess for the neighborhood. We have cars parked everywhere. If we don't block our driveway, they park in our driveway, and of course, you can't get somebody out of your driveway. And there's cars everywhere. There's traffic back and forth. You have people walking and kids riding their bikes up and down the street with just a real dangerous situation, actually. And it's a real concern. The other issue is on noise. I think there's something like 90 homes within 500 feet of this property. And it's loud, and it continues to be loud. It plays music all day, amplified music all day and into the night. They stop at 10 o'clock at night, but it's a problem, and it's a real concern. I was shocked, actually, when I looked at in the background material. I looked at the form of the liquor license, and it said they had to stop serving and stop playing music at 8 o'clock. They've never done that in my experience. And we've had to call, the police. We call the police at 10 o'clock. But it's a real issue. So I just think that an expansion of this is not in keeping with the community. I think it's a real concern for all of us that live in proximity. It's a lovely residential area. There's a place for a restaurant like this, but expanding it and allowing it to be even bigger is I think a real problem. But I think the most as important as it is to not continue to my recommendation is that you don't approve this. But even more important, I think we need a way to enforce the current liquor license rules and regulations. It's really been a problem in the 20 years that we've been there. And there's no way that we have to enforce it. It's really, we call the police, but it feels really bad. They have much more important things to worry about. And it's just a real concern. So I think we need to our suggestion is to not approve this and to come up with a way to enforce the restrictions that you wisely put on this operation. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Stunts. Amy, can you clarify just one comment that it's getting bigger? I think you said it's not getting bigger, right? The seats are staying the same.
That's what the condition we would have on it, and that's what the applicant said that they were already doing. It's certainly something we would have to inspect to make sure on the seats, because again, it affects, as he said, the traffic, the noise, the plumbing, has certain requirements on bathrooms for number of people. So,
well, but does it, if the amount of seats are saying, let's just say 200,
yeah, if they stay the same,
why would that be an issue?
No, I'm saying that if we were to find that it was not
over, yeah,
and if they wanted to go over, correct. And if we can, at some point in the packet, there is, and I don't have to read every single one, but there's the liquor license that I included, the draft with the new manager. And he's correct in saying that the 10 p.m. is for the limited number of evening functions they are allowed upon reporting of those functions, which isn't always done. And I found last year with the manager that last year didn't seem to be aware of these conditions that we write directly onto the license that have been there since 2004. We're certainly trying to find some better avenues for folks to report some of this as well, that we can investigate, but it is 8 p.m. And it has the limited number of events included as well during the season. I think a maximum of 4 in July and August, and not to exceed 8 in June and September. And those are supposed to be reported, obviously with an agreement with the abutters at the time that this was decided in 2004. Noise levels, again, not to exceed maximum decibel level allowed by the bylaw. So things of that sort have been on that license for 19 years now.
But none of those things.
Can you take Mayo off? Whenever someone's done speaking, can you pull them off? There's a,
You hear the back.
Eric always does, I'm not sure. I don't see anybody hands up. Is any questions for or comments from the board to ask Amy or ask the applicants?
So I want to be clear, this is not this, are they asking for permanent alteration of premise with the same, to include the beach, the same number of seats under their existing license?
Correct.
And the alternative is 1 year extension under the COVID?
They've asked for that. I did try to leave a message for the executive director of the ABCC to talk about the town's ability, which generally with the state, what they put out, you can't go looser than the state, but if the local municipality wishes to have stricter restrictions, they can. My question certainly was, we have already told everyone that they have to at least be in the process for a permanent alteration to continue. Those that have already come before the board, if they haven't been approved by the ABCC, we said, well, you can continue using the space since you've already put in your application, it's been approved, it's just being processed. I think the state allowed for the extension because of the huge number that they've had to deal with, and it's just been a backlog. So they extended it for 1 more year to allow for a permanent application. So I think we can allow for it for 1 more year with the same conditions that were under COVID, which was no increase in occupancy. It was to move your tables around. Technically, it was for those with interior spaces to move those seats outdoors and to make up for those seats that were lost due to spacing requirements. So that's why I think the compromise could be argued that it could be, but then they'd have to come back again in 2024 for permanent. As much as I said I doubted the state was going to do it this year, I highly doubt it's going to continue next year. They're just trying to catch up.
So just as a clarification, we don't have to extend either of these. It's
Correct.
still under our, it's
Correct.
It's not granted automatically because the
Correct.
state extended.
Correct.
Okay.
Does everybody feel like they know exactly what we're talking about in the areas and the seats and? Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, I'll let John go and then I'll.
Well, I was, no, I don't want to interrupt. I'm not sure if I'm just standing here until there's public discussion.
Yeah, anybody can talk. I was just trying to get some conversation here at the board, and I'll come back to you. So
Okay.
Malcolm and then Don, and I'll go to you.
Yeah, I have to make I think you're asking the same question I am. We're not talking about an extension of seats here. Next question is, since there's seats on the beach now, does the Conservation Commission have any issue on that?
I don't believe so.
Because it's their property, you know?
Well, this is the applicant's property. Again, we started addressing this in 2018. I included the letter that I sent to them, and we met with them in 2018 because we saw the seats and said, well, this is not part of your license. Ownership is not enough to extend your premise. It needs obviously further. So we started this before COVID, this discussion, COVID happened. And when I say the word extension, I just meant what the state extended our ability to allow for these outdoor spaces without further ABCC approval, which we started during COVID. That had been meant to expire April 1st. The state came along and said, oh, we'll give it one more year to allow for people time to apply for permanent alteration. We didn't have to go through the state during COVID. So that's what that means. They extended that ability to approve those spaces. However, the local municipality, if we've already been in that process to require they start this process, we can continue with that. Okay.
Why would we want to extend the COVID regulations?
We don't, but the applicant had brought that up as a possibility this
I'm
week.
just trying to find a justification for a
Yeah.
reason to extend it in my
You
head.
don't know.
I don't have.
That was just brought up, so I had to address it.
And the reason this is here is because there's liquor involved, right? And that's-
Correct.
if there's no liquor, they just go out there and
Yeah,
most
they-
likely serve food.
Well, if they, obviously being owners of the property, if they had put a couple couches out there and people wanted to hang out there, great. When you start with the service of alcohol and food, all the codes start to plug in, like
And that's what
NIR
comes to
owns all
you.
of Straight Wharf. They can't just start putting tables out.
That's when
They
it comes to you, when it
require
comes
it.
to us.
Yeah, so that's the part. Again, if they just had couches out there. And the other part of this is that I think folks writing in how much they loved it and walking on the beach with their drinks, you can't leave that area with your drinks. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people being served out past that area. So that's another caveat here too, is that the liquor service begins and ends in that location. You can't go walking down the beach on other properties as well with that alcohol. So it's just because it's a liquor license, that's why we're here. But yeah, couches for people to sit, it's not a big deal.
So I mean, I'm obviously have concerns because there's some health violations, environmental problems, fire problems, noise, parking, et cetera. So
Correct.
I'm trying to get a comfort level here.
Understood.
And I'm still concerned about letting people put tables on the beach. I mean, to me, that I'm
Correct.
sure if I was the Conservation Commission, they wouldn't like that.
Well, if I may answer,
Please.
and some of the comments I gave you as well, and the communications we had internally about the spill last year on the beach, we had, Jeff Carlson was involved, sewer was involved, all these departments were involved. So it was a concerning incident and showed a little bit of a lack of respect for that natural resource. So that was a concerning incident. And that was last summer. Again, after the manager coming in and we did the change of manager, I went through this all with that person and said, please understand the responsibility in front of you here.
But we've
And it didn't
changed-
happen.
Change managers, it hasn't helped. didn't it?
Yeah. So that's my concern is I hear it every year and, it's a beautiful spot and I want people to be able to enjoy it. I've enjoyed it myself, but the amount of, and again, you're seeing my face here. I'm representing a lot of people that do a lot of work to get to this position. The health inspectors, fire, they all call me when these things happen. It is constant. It has been every single year on some level. And I can't not talk about this anymore in public. So that's why we have started to include this a little bit more to have this discussion. All we're asking is for respect for their time and the basic requirements that we're asking for.
And my history goes back to the Board of Health.
Right.
Where I can remember some issues there.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a model for tables on the beach. Like the galley, it's figured it out and it works fine. Everybody loves it. So this
Right.
isn't a new concept.
And-
So in that sense, I'm not been done before. It can't be
Correct.
done well.
And if I may, that was brought up in many letters that talked about enjoying it. Toes in the sand. Well, we can do it at the galley and the jetties. Why not here?
Right.
Well, the galley and the jetties included that beach and that area in their initial application. It has always been part of their license. And they also comply with all of these codes and we've not had any issues. You'll have noise everywhere. You'll have, of course, we're not sitting here being, you can't do anything wrong. That's not it at all. But that's why that's allowed there,
Okay. Dawn?
Oh, I was just, I'm concerned with the violations and I think there needs to be something in place that if anything else occurs, there's a greater suspension. I agree with that. But I do like the idea of keeping the tables on the sand as long as they're movable tables and, but the other thing that I'm thinking of with the traffic and the parking issues is how do we monitor that the occupancy is based on the seats and that there's not people standing around the bar, overcrowding.
Well, in this location, it's open to the sky, so there's not really, the same issues you have with an interior space as far as occupancy. What the number I was talking about, and again, health was going to confirm it for me, is based on, I think, plumbing code and number of seats. So the number of seats in relation to the number of bathrooms required, and also kitchen facilities, which health also has concerns about. I think there's also an issue with permitting for the staff housing. So there's a couple of different issues that they have to deal with prior to that. So that's why we're talking about number of seats. So there's going to be people waiting and stuff like that. Are there going to be people standing at the bar? Yes, to some extent. We haven't found that to be a huge issue, but yeah, that's where that comes from.
Okay.
Brooke, and then we'll go to John.
There's a requirement that all fines be paid. Have the fines been paid?
So as we were coming in here today, I know we had some questions about, there's a couple $1,000s in health fines last year. Those were just resolved, and immediately after that, I got a further email from the health department about outstanding taxes, which is something we kind of deal with every year. They eventually do pay them, but we have to we go to the tax collector when we issue licenses about any outstanding fees. We had quite a few landfill fees. And again, I just got this as I walked in here this evening. So those would have to be resolved. And because the health department did say to me this evening, again, as I walked in, that those would need to be resolved before they can go do inspections.
Mr. Shea, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So my name is John Shea. I'm speaking as a private citizen. I'm here just because I live in Sconset. I've lived in Sconset for 50 years. And I'll just say that I know this property really well, and I know the history a little bit, and I'll just like to, for everyone's sake, remind you of the history of that property, which is that that is the old, well, going back to the train station on that very beach, right in front of where the swimming pool is now. Is where the train station and the turnaround happened, just in Cartridge Park and everybody. So part of the old train station was in 1927 turned into a place called the Sconset Cottage Club. So that was almost 100 years ago. And that was a famous restaurant that had live music, it had dancing, it had all kinds of things. And then in the 1930s, 1940s, 50s, up into sometime in the 60s, the Sconset Cottage Club, which was the old Sconset train station, was turned into the Moby Dick Inn and was built on the bank next door to where our neighbor, Mr. Stutz, lives. He doesn't know this because he wasn't there then and may not know the history, but I'll just let him know that his is the only house below the bank. And but right next to where his house was the old Moby Dick Inn, and it was famous for having live music. It had big bands from all over the world that came, and Baltimore, the dancing where the pool is now. And so and then what happened in 1956 is that the Moby Dick Inn burned down, unfortunately, one night. And Mr. Clem Reynolds, the owner, said, well, I guess what, we'll move it up to the old game house, which is where it is now in the summer house. And but they rebuilt the restaurant down at the pool, and they, kept that open. And you may know also that the summer house, well, anyway, also then in 1970, I started working there as a waiter. And so for 3 years, 1971, 72, 70, 71, 72, I was a waiter there, working my way through college. So I knew it really well. And I used to go down to the pool, and I used to serve everybody down there, liquor and food and things like that. And yeah, people would, wander down. I don't know what the liquor license was in those days, obviously, but I want you to know that this service has been going on there since those days. And then in 1979, the Moby Dick Inn was sold by the Wiley family to a woman from Southern California a couple of years later. And I bought 6 of the cottages, and I lived next door to the Summer House Inn for 25 years. So I know it really well as a resident living next to it, the way our neighbor who spoke earlier did. And then, and I'm talking about, I owned that property from 1980 AD to the year 1979 to the year 2005, 2005. And then what happened was that Danielle came along and she wanted to buy the summer house, which was up for sale. The people from Southern California didn't want it anymore. And so we wanted to preserve it because we were afraid it was going to just go the way of all things. And so I was invited to join a partnership and I bought the summer house with Danielle and 4 other people. And I owned it for 10 years from 1985 to 1995. And I sold my shares back to Danielle, who with her husband, Peter, ran it and still runs it. And it's a very difficult property to run because it's big and it's the most popular place in Sconset. You have the Chanticleer, basically you have the summer house. That's it. And the Chanticleer is obviously well off the beach and very high-end, sort of beautiful, absolutely spectacular restaurant where you also used to work. But the summer house invites people who are walking by, riding their bike by, come on down to the pool, have a great time. And so all I can say is that since 1927, until this year, almost 100 years, there has been down at the pool, food, alcohol, dancing, music, and people from Sconset and from all over the island and from people from all over the world. And I'm sorry if our neighbor, again, the next door, Mr. Stutz, I think his name, didn't know that when he bought his house next door to the pool, that this was going on. I'm sorry for that, but that, that history is well recorded. The other thing I just want to say is that the violations last year, I don't know what to say, just as a private citizen. Curtis, you were upset about that, but there was a fire that they had.
You can talk to me. Talk to me.
They lost a lot of stuff. The restaurant was closed down. Things were difficult. Danielle's husband was quite sick and then passed away. So there were extraordinary circumstances that tried, I'm sure, their administration, and that only as a friend that I would know about. I am also sure, because when I asked Danielle, why do you still own the summer house? Why don't you just sell it? People, want to buy it. And she said, because I love it. And I love the people here. And I love Sconset. I love this place. This is where my heart is. She comes back every summer and does this, and I was doing it alone. So I'll just want to say that I hope that the board will understand, and thank you, Amy, for laying out everything that has to be done, and give Danielle a chance to have this happen with her new manager, for the sake of not only her and the 35 or 40 years that she's owned the summer house, but also for the community of Nantucket and the community of Sconset that loves this place and wants it to continue to flourish as it has. But to your point, within the rules and regulations of the zoning board, remember that the property that we're talking about is not on the beach. It's simply beyond the pool, like the service. It's like one table and a couple of seating areas. It's 150 yards from the beach and from the water. It's simply beyond the patio.
Mr. Shea, could you wrap up, please?
And that's the end. Okay. I just want you to, if you understand where it is, that's where it is. So anyway, thank you very much. And I'll sit down.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. I do love hearing you tell stories, whether it's history or, but thank you. Questions from the board? I don't see any other hand.
For the record, I'm Danielle DeBenedictis. I just wanted to address some of the concerns here, but I wanted to start out with saying all the taxes in this property are paid on time every year, the real estate taxes. They approximate about $100,000 and they're always paid on time. In April of this year, when I was paying online with one of my assistants, the taxes, there were small amounts due for various different things like personal property taxes, $43 for each cottage, excise taxes, very small amounts. Everything was paid in full in April. In fact, I had a credit with the landfill people and they wanted to send me a check. And I said, don't do that. I'm sure I'm going to incur other costs. So just keep it on credit. When I came down here yesterday for this hearing, I went to the post office in Sconset and there was a landfill bill that exceeded my credit. That's the first time I ever saw it. And it's in the amount of approximately $4,000, and I will pay it, forthwith. I saw on the landfill bill that I hadn't gotten the credit. So I wanted to go down there tomorrow and just, I'm sure it was just an accounting thing because they had tried to send me a check. Maybe they issued a check when I didn't want it. But so maybe we owe about $3,000 on this very recent landfill bill that's no more than a few days old. So there has not been a history of not paying the very large taxes that are due in this property, which are the real estate taxes. Something that was sent to me by Kathy Flynn before I came here pertained to 10 Ocean Avenue, which is the property that I recently purchased. It is the property that is between the summer house and the people who have taken down all the trees on the beach, their property. And it was the former owners hadn't paid taxes in many, many years. The DiMartino's property is the property that goes from Gully Road down toward this little strip of land, which was owned by heirs of Charles Britton. And I think that the town was doing some sort of a tax title and realized the Brittons hadn't in many, many years paid taxes. And then I was contacted by a representative of the Brittons, and eventually it ended up with me paying them $2 million for this strip of land. And as part of that, they were to have brought the taxes current. So they got my $2 million. I mean, just today, I only saw this about 15 minutes ago. I was wanting to consult my records to see whether I purchased that property in 2021 or 2022. But all these real estate taxes that haven't been paid, that was the Britain's responsibility, that were on what Kathy Flynn sent over here today saying I hadn't paid, are not my responsibility. I don't owe real estate taxes going back to the 1940s and property I didn't own. I only own the real estate taxes for the 2 or maybe 3 years. I think it's only 2, but I wrote to Kathy before I came over here and said, I'll get my deed out and I'll figure out if there's anything due for the period of the 1 or 2 years that I owe. And I think that the 1 or 2 years that I owe, because it's just undeveloped land, is around $400 or $300. So I just wanted to make it clear that there has not been a history of not paying a lot of taxes on this property. I also wanted to make it clear that I'm not asking to put more seats out there. We're using the same furniture that we've had for about 10 years, the same number of seats. And we just moved it around during COVID to the area that's below our Bluestone patio. And it's not really a beach area. Unlike the DiMartino's, we have never cleared the property. There's trees and scrub, and there's sort of a little bit of sand there where we can put some tables. And we've done that, and everybody loved it very much. And going back to what Amy said about 2018, when we first bought the property, which was in 1980, they were serving on that same place. In fact, they had a volleyball, sort of set up there. People were playing volleyball. There were tables on the beach. I was unaware until when Amy came in 2018, just before COVID, or maybe it was 2019, and said, you're not allowed to serve on the beach, because we had historically, when we bought the property, we've never asked to change the license. So in the 43 years that we've owned the property, the description of the premises has remained the same. And she pointed out that the description of the premises did not include this little bit of area, which John described, which is not actually very large. And so we said, okay, we'll stop serving there. And, she came down, I think it might've been sometime early August, and we stopped serving there immediately. And we said, we'll apply for an alteration of premises so that to allow the continuation of what we thought we were allowed to serve in this volleyball area, which is owned by us. And again, about 150 feet from the actual beach. So then COVID came along and we were encouraged to serve out there. So we did serve out there and people loved it. And we want to continue to do that. And I think of all the letters, there are many letters that were sent in support of serving out there. what people commented on was how quiet it is there. You know, people will come with typically with generational families that you don't see coming to places like the Galley and that are overpriced, or maybe not overpriced from their perspective, but are expensive, I should say. And you'll often see grandchildren, grandparents, and parents of families that I've grown to be my friends there for the 43 years that I've been there. And people come up to me all the time and say how much they enjoy being there. They often say it's the only place I can go with my parents, my children, my grandchildren, and my dog. And so it's really a very unique spot. And I'm not asking to add seats. And, you know, perhaps it was some confusion in terms of the way in which you have to fill out these forms. And I hired a surveyor to show where the seats were. So it might have looked like I was adding 60 seats, but it's the same number of seats. And Amy will let me know whether it's 200 or it's 220 or whatever it is. We will certainly comply with that. We do have very large ladies and men's rooms that can accommodate up to 8 people. So I'm sure that we've come within the whatever the requirements are, but whatever the requirements are, I will find out and we will comply. And in far as different things that happened last summer, I really was in a state of shock over the death of my husband when Dr. Lepre called me and said that he died. I just couldn't believe it because he'd gone for a routine MRI at the hospital and I had just been with him. And so it took me a while to recover from that. I was not actively involved in the business last summer, but I feel much stronger now. And I've hired a very good manager who's here with me. And he's somebody that I've known for many years from Palm Beach. And as you can see, he's properly attired. He's a professional. He knows the rules and regulations. And we intend to fully comply and work with Amy. And I'd just like to be granted the chance to continue the tradition of the summer house. And thank you. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Question or comments on the board? Amy?
I'll just follow up by saying that, again, it's a beautiful location and we really want it to work. We have, let me just say, and I think I mentioned this in talking about you, Jason, is this is not fun part of the job. We're not up here just saying these things or bringing up these violations for any reason to target anyone. I'm trying to represent my colleagues who have gone through this, and it wasn't just last year. You know, we brought up the most recent issues, but please know that this is difficult to deal with and to bring up, but it needs to be addressed. Hopefully, you know, they can do that. And I hope the new manager is capable of that. We are in no way wanting it to continue. Hopefully we don't have to talk very much at all anymore. We'll just do our inspections. We'll get off with the season like we do with, 90% of the other 102 licenses we have, and we can go. So we're just asking for it to meet in that middle. And I just, hope everyone understands we would love for it to work and people to enjoy the beach. That's all the hard work of these inspectors is doing is to protect their public safety and health. Yep. And they're enjoying it because of their hard work. So.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Dawn? You were going to say something. We can close the public hearing. And then,
I would be ready to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Second.
All those in. Yep. Can you hold off on that one second? Yeah.
I thought we had a motion.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Beth Jekanowski, and I just want to say that I speak in favor of extending the permit, for the liquor license, and I'm in full support of what she's doing. And I just think that we need to extend it, and I just speak in favor for her, and I just ask that you continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Go forward with my motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. We can discuss, make a motion, ask any questions. Dawn?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I'm prepared to do the change of to transfer the
manager,
right? That I'm comfortable with. As far as the alteration of premise, I think we should have, I want to deal with that separately. if
You want
we
to do
can
the
that.
first one? Make the
Yeah.
motion.
So I, motion to approve the change of manager.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And then I'm very uncomfortable granting an alteration of premise for a management that's had as many issues as it had. And Ms. De Benedictis, I'm sorry for the chaos in your life and your loss last year, but this precedes that. And I'd be inclined to deny this application with the recommendation that they get through this year without violations or with a better track record and come back again.
Dawn or Malcolm?
I feel a little bit differently. I think that we should give them a chance to continue this year. And if there are violations, then we need to do some kind of a suspension.
Okay.
I like to eat on the beach too. I think it's great. So I've got past the comments that have objections about the beach, but I'm still left with this history of violation of health violations, fire violations, and environmental violations. And it's a long history. And I've always heard, we're going to get better. We're going to get better. We'll do it better. So I'm leaning towards Brooke right now in her comment. Unless I could absolutely be guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed that none of these would happen again.
Question for Amy, just from what kind of restrictions can we put on? Like, can we even say, look, one violation and we're taking it away? We may not be able to do that legally.
Correct. Legally, what you would have to do is post for a hearing, similar type of situation where we'd have to go through a notification of the licensee and then have a hearing. I mean, it could be done pretty quickly. And
It's 3 weeks. So if a violation
Right.
happens into July, we would take it away into August and they've got the summer.
Right.
You know.
And that was part of the agreement that I emailed them today with all those points that I read in, that any violation of these cause would immediately go to Board of Health, appropriate board, and be reported to the select board immediately. You know, a lot of times we take care of these and try to go through the process, issue the fines, but I think you need to be notified immediately should we run into this.
And if there are violations, what does the board? I mean, if it's obviously egregious, the Board of Health can shut any restaurant down. But is there cumulative, or what is the powers of
Right.
the Board of Health?
Well, the Board of Health has in this property and their other property had to do that in other instances. I think last year they did close the kitchen, as I mentioned, at a certain point with these violations. So they have their own powers they can do for violations of the health code because it's an immediate danger to the public. They can do that. As far as the liquor license, again, we have a couple more procedural things we need to do, but again, as we have outlined in our regulations, are the warning, and then you go to 1 day closure, 2 day. We've traditionally done a closure based on a compliance violation the same day in the following year. If it's done immediately in the summer, it can be done immediately. That's your choice to do so. I think this is the warning. We go immediately to the 1 day,
I was going to ask you, do we have to do the warning, or could we say there's no more warnings? It's immediately, it's a fast tracked.
Yes, correct. And depending on the severity and a lot of times how it's written, when we say have a compliance violation, if it's, 2 underage or 2, whatever it is, that counts as a warning and then the first. So we generally go as far as number of violations, but based on the communications we've done and the Board of Health issues, that's the warning. And I certainly put that in my communications as well, as we've passed the warning stage.
Yeah, I mean, just
I have one more question.
Sure.
So go back again about the 3 week. So essentially they now have a warning.
Correct. So if we find violations directly for the liquor license or operation of the premises that involve the liquor license. It's similar to these hearings. We would have to notice the applicant for the hearing and I believe put in a notice for the hearing as well. So it'd be similar to scheduling any sort of public hearing, and that requires that 10-day prior notice in the paper.
And what would happen in that period of time? They could still serve alcohol?
Unless it was something, the Board of Health, again, has immediate powers. If it was in some case an immediate danger to the public or public health, we might be able to have to go before a judge, or we'd have to go to the ABCC. But generally, that can be taken care of by Board of Health for other reasons.
I have in the past denied alteration for a liquor license on reputation, on past either violations or I just didn't feel like they were ready. So I've done that before. So I think I'm trying to figure out how to kind of in between Brooke and Dawn, where I'm trying to find a way to allow it, but put a lot of contingencies and reins on it. But I'm searching for, it doesn't seem like we really can. No, this is public hearings over.
I mean, they're not asking for more seats, and this has already been existing.
Right.
So, and our purview is really about the liquor service.
Right.
So I'm a little bit struggling that the Board of Health has the authority over the other violations, or if there are unpaid bills, that then they don't get their licenses. So I'm feeling like we're connecting things that are connected in terms of how they've handled things overall, but we're also talking about new management. And what if this was a whole new restaurant opening and wanted the same seat layout? And in a way, hiring a brand new management is that. And I think that, there will be many members of the community that will be very disappointed to see this taken away.
Yeah.
So I think we should give it a chance.
Well, Mr. Chair, I can kind of move towards Dawn if I have some kind of assurances that if there is a violation, it will be taken care of quickly and not be, we'll take care of it, or.
Correct. Absolutely. And I'm thinking here, this is, mainly about number of seats, and that's where the pressure point was for health department on top of the things they need to clean up before obviously the season, as everyone does. They would be able to take action on that pretty quickly as well, because the seats are tied to the plumbing code and the health code. So liquor violations, again, we handle the same way we would any liquor violation. But I guarantee you we can't keep going down this road, as I wrote in this. So we want to communicate this publicly again. If it continues to be, I hope not. I hope not. We want to make it work because we can't keep doing this. So I guarantee that.
Amy, it's like this was happening up until 2018, where you said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have to kind of come, you have to get this, you have to legitimize that."
Correct.
Make it kind of legal.
Correct.
So it was done before. Now they're trying to make it legal. There's that aspect to this.
Can I make one point on that too? I wrote down too, and they talked about the history and they'd always been done. And we see that a lot. And, I've come before this board quite a bit in the past year, trying to bring everyone up to compliance because things just were the way they were. My favorite example is the chicken box was, a restaurant license for a long time and got health sign-offs for 20 years. Has anyone eaten at the chicken box lately? No, it wasn't anyone's fault. It just kind of was. It was a restaurant liquor license. And so we changed it to the general on premise so it can be what it can be. So those things did happen, but we're kind of a little too high profile and have too much going on to have these little things going on. And we've made this concerted effort in the past as COVID is winding down, try to get everyone up into that compliance. And that's why we're talking about there. I know it had been done. A lot of things have been done forever, but this is the proper way to proceed legally.
So just to be clear, if there's a violation, what is the quickest the consequence could happen with the public notice and all that? We're talking weeks?
You mean for a liquor violation, which for
A
us,
liquor violation.
not a health.
Right.
That's
I have to notify them. I generally have it delivered, or I've had an officer deliver and then put a public notice in. immediately, which is required 10 days before any liquor public hearing. And again, if it wasn't the case that was, we felt jeopardizing public safety or public health, we can take other measures. But the other departments and I communicate very well. We had an issue today. The fire inspector called me right up. So we are communicating on quite a daily basis, and you would be notified immediately.
You change your position at all, Brooke? Okay. Oh, Dawn, you seem to be in the middle. Do you want to make a motion and see where we land?
I will make a motion to allow this. I mean, I do think it is one of those things where they have been doing it for a long time, and now they're actually asking to come into compliance, and that's a positive move. And we'll give them a chance on it for this year, but that week, we'll see how it goes. And if there is a liquor violation, I'd like to schedule a public hearing as quickly as possible in that case. And then the Board of Health will do their job if anything else happens. And I hope that it doesn't. And I think that's been made pretty clear tonight.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second. Providing, as we said, there'd be a hearing immediately or as soon as legally possible.
It takes a couple of weeks to advertise.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those, trying to think, this could be a 2-2 vote. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those against?
No.
I'm an aye. Well, it passes. I think it was
Thank you.
What pushed me over the edge is I think it's very clear of what's expected with the history, and so I think if anything happens, it'll happen quick.
Yep. I'll keep you posted.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Amy's on top of it.
We will, through town administration, notify you of anything. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open a public hearing to consider application for change of category for seasonal wine and malt beverage restaurant license for JKRG LLC, DBA Company of the Cauldron. They want to add in a seasonal all alcohol beverage restaurant license to the premises at 5 India Street.
Ooh, thank you. So yeah, so this is a change of category. They currently Company of the Cauldron for several years now has had with this ownership has a beer and wine license, and they'd like to serve an all alcohol license, be able to serve liquor too as well. No issues at all. Great spot. We've not had any problems. Joseph just would like to add this service to his license.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Does anyone like to comment? In the public? Okay.
Motion to close the.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. Discussion, motion. What's the board think? Everybody
I'd
okay?
make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes 4-0. I went a little faster. All right, on number 6, we'll open a public hearing and consider an application for transfer of annual all alcohol beverage general on premises license from Nantucket Culinary Center LLC, DBA Nantucket Culinary Center. Gregory Margulies, the manager. This is to the Nantucket Culinary Center to Andrea Solomeo, the manager of the premises. So this is a transfer.
Yes. So this is a transfer, as we know, a long time managers of that property, Greg and Joy, had retired, and this new group is coming in. Dre Solomeo, who's currently also the manager at Pizzeria Jimenez. That's correct, right? I always know if I say that right. And also Taylor Oliver from Ventuno and VMR fame are taking over this location, which great folks to do so. They are seeking to transfer the licenses basically as is. We have 2 things, the cafe and patio. Again, I included the ZBA decision that has been part of this property as well, that does not allow for alcohol service in the cafe while open. So that is not going to be part of the liquor license. That is a common vicular. They've already been able to open, pass their health inspections. That was a separate determination. The upstairs where they have events and they have culinary classes and things of that such will continue to run as well. And there are a couple of things I will go here. We'll do the entertainment license separately, but again, not many major changes. The one thing I think we'll add here is their ability to do some receptions or cocktail receptions in the patio area when the cafe is closed. That would be an addition that wasn't on the previous license. Again, it will be after hours if they're having an event inside, if they wanted to have some folks outdoors on the patio when closed.
Is that part of this public hearing? This is just a transfer, right? Are you just
Yeah, so I'm just informing as far as when you do the transfer, you can alter the premise or you can add different things. So it's mostly the same transfer of the license, but it would probably be extending to for special events only on that patio when the cafe is closed, to be able to have some of their guests that are interior as well, to be able to be on the patio. The patio again is enclosed as is required and, you know, is fine as far as that's concerned.
So it's
as
part
well.
of this public hearing.
Yeah.
This motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is part of the premise. That would be the one thing. As far as that is concerned, that would be different from what had previously been allowed. So.
Yeah.
Amy, is there a limit to the number of special events as is with some licenses for them?
No, because the 2 stories above the cafe are really an event facility in a sense.
Already.
They have,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to be serving indoors, but to be able to allow folks, you know, to have a reception outdoors and to go inside, I think will be helpful for them. They plan on, I know Chris Sleeper's here is also a partner here who's with Pip and Anchor. And I think they're going to try to do some partnership things and have more events there or things for folks to be part of. I think, you know, they have a great plan and hopefully have better use of that building as well. So, yeah.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone like to comment on this? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd make a motion to approve this.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Number 7, we'll open a public hearing to consider the application for the transfer of live entertainment license from Nantucket Culinary Center, Gregory Margulies, over to Dre. Same thing, just this is the
Correct.
entertainment version.
Yep. So the license as I included is the same entertainment license. It does allow for live interior music if they have events and have, you know, acoustic guitar, different types of music as well. And streaming and background music again for events. It's not exterior music, it's interior. And again, this building meets all fire and building code requirements for this
Yeah, it's
license.
the same as what they've had.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is there anybody who'd like to speak on this from the public? This is a public hearing.
Motion to close.
Second.
Always look to my left to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Who's
Yes.
second?
I did.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Chairman Bridges, may I forgot something in the hearing for Company of the Cauldron to make a determination that the change of category is not detrimental to the spiritual activities of St. Mary's Church.
Someone like to make that?
Apologies.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Number 8, we'll open a public hearing to consider application for a new seasonal wine and malt beverage package store license for Foggy Bottom Kitchen, a DBA Foggy Nantucket. This is at 147 Orange Street.
Yes, thank you. Hold on a second. So let me get this open. Okay, someone's being, okay. Can you possibly put up the AIS for this? For me, it's not coming up. So as you know, we have a quota on liquor licenses. Currently, for annual liquor licenses, we are full. For annual all alcoholic beverages, we are 2 over. For annual beer and wine, we are full. For seasonal liquor licenses, they don't separate it between all alcohol and beer and wine. They just do it based on our seasonal estimate of what our population is, as we did in March. You voted again for 45,000. It's 1 per 5,000 for that seasonal. This license is a seasonal. They're asking for beer and wine, and it is the last one left on the island based on these quotas. The annual liquor license quota is set every 10 years based on the census. This year, the census did not go up enough to add any more. So we're at where we are. Again, we have to get rid of 3 before we can even add an annual. This business currently is open, selling food, and is open annually. They do a good job of doing their best to keep open. Certainly they probably would want an annual, but that's not available. So that's why they are applying for a seasonal beer and wine. Seasonal again is April 1st to January 15th as far as when they can serve that. If approved, they would have to remove liquor from the premises between January the 15th to April 1st and have it removed or in locked storage and not to be sold in that time period. Again, the applicant, I think, is at the point that a lot of folks are in needing this extra addition to survive and to be able to be open year round and continue their business. And again, they've been there for a few years as far as serving food and takeout and such, and no issues, and have been running a good business and doing the best they can to stay open year round.
I don't know if I missed anything, but this is a public hearing. Is there any
Correct.
comments from anyone? Yeah, please.
I just wanted to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Amanda Riley. My husband and I own Foggy Nantucket. We have 3 children here on Nantucket. We've been year-round community residents for 20 years. Opened in 2019, never expected COVID. We survived by scaling everything back. We ran the restaurant completely with just me and my husband. This year, now that the pandemic is over, now to survive, we're having to expand back to our original footprint. So we've taken back over our storefront. We've added prepared foods. We've done a lot of things in addition to what we're already doing. But the last piece for us is this seasonal license. We really look forward to taking that on. And we hope that we're granted that opportunity to do that. And we feel like we can do that responsibly and within all laws, and hope that it will take us to the next level to maybe one day have that dream of owning our own house here and cementing ourselves completely into the community, keeping Foggy here year round. Because we all know that Nantucket needs more of year-round open businesses, especially, restaurants and people that are here immersed in our community. So thank you. I hope we get that opportunity.
Thank you.
Can I say, I think it was this winter when she came by and they had a personal thing to deal with, emergency, said, I'm so sorry, we're gonna have to close for a little bit to deal with this. And I thought, wow, I mean, they were committed to trying as hard as they could to stay open, and even told us when they had that issue not to. So they really were, trying. And so it felt like, they really needed this opportunity. And it was, if there's one left, it's nice to see they've been really trying hard.
Any other public comment? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any thoughts, discussion?
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Good luck. Okay, public hearing to consider an application for amendment to entertainment license for Servidwell Brotherhood LLC, DBA The Brotherhood of Thieves, James Stromboni, manager for premises located at 23 Broad Street to add background music on outdoor patio and live music on ground level per approval of special permit amendment. Public hearing is open. Amy, do you just want to?
So, as you know, the new ownership of the Brotherhood came in a year ago for their new licenses, about a year ago, a little more. And, at the time we had this discussion, and certainly what the special permit did not allow for the music on the patio. And I think prior the license did not as well. It certainly was played before, but it became a thing with the special permit, and they had said, come back to us in a year, see how you did, and we'll reconsider. I attended that hearing in April as well to kind of see what the discussion was and contribute to the discussion. So in the planning board took comments from the abutters as well, and the restaurant as well. Like to add, the general manager, Jonas Baker, has come on. And we all know Jonas from a long history of restaurant life here in Nantucket as well. So that was an added +2 for the management there, someone who obviously understands Nantucket and what's going on here. What they decided is to allow for background music, low level background music for dining. What they decided was until 11 p.m. and they did a June 1st to I think October 1st time limit, and then 10 p.m. thereafter. Meeting with the applicant, it's just a straightforward 10 p.m. request. It's too difficult to do this time kind of range. So they did the straight 10 p.m. request. Additionally, the discussion was about the requirement for that area to be seated dining only. As you know, we've discussed, and as you are allowed to do, is to put that restriction or requirement on a dining area that it's for seated dining only, not for a standing bar, events, things of that sort. What they're asking here, as we've had a discussion about, is, and I spoke with Jonas today and went to Brotherhood today to take a walk around, is that they're looking for on the shoulder seasons, mostly wedding season, September, to be able to have a limited number of stand-up type receptions in that outdoor patio that can be enclosed for that time period. It would not be open to the public. It would not be an increase in occupancy. It would be a limited basis where they're looking for the ability to do that. It's not stand-up service during the public hours. It would be for some of these events. They, again, did a honorable job of staying open all year, which is not something we saw a lot of. They really committed to that, and in that part, they really came through. And discussing that with them, they're looking to continue doing that. A couple of different things to help with their business plan to have some of these receptions, mostly interior, but to have the ability to have stand-up out there. Again, no increase in occupancy or additional entertainment requests on that. So that's number 2. Yeah.
Amy, did you say the stand-up was just for the events, or is that?
It's for the events.
Okay.
And again, we're talking shoulder season, not in season. We're talking September, October time period.
In service. It's not.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And lastly, there was discussion about, and it's a little confusing, and I'm not even sure the amendment needed here, but they did request live music downstairs, the acoustic type of guitar thing that they had there. Anyone who's been there since the 80s, whatever, that they would do down in that corner, looking to continue to do that. Currently, we have an allowance till 1 a.m. for pre-recorded music in that area. I suppose, having this and having that in that section till 10 p.m. Would have to be added. I don't think it would be an incredible difference there, because they're not asking for some sort of additional amplification in that area. But again, it is a live person, it's live music. So that is a separate category. They are allowed to have that upstairs as well. So we're looking at 3 items here. Most important being the allowance of pre-recorded low-level background music on that back patio until 10 p.m. It is, and again, I went and looked at it today, a maximum of existing speakers. I think there's 4 pointed down or at Broad Street direction. Again, I'd forgotten that they had all the enclosures there. Obviously, they opened the flaps at some point. Most of them pointing along the side. In the front, I saw where the abutters were in relation to this, but it's they are able to put some of those sides down if needed. But again, it's just for the low level background music during dining until 10 p.m. maximum.
So that's the first one until 10 p.m. pre-recorded. The second one is events. And can you walk me through again?
Yep.
What's asked for? Shoulder
Mhm.
season, what does that mean? Is that June, September? Is that May? Is it, can we determine that, or do they have?
We
is
can
there recommendations?
certainly, the recommendations and generally, and I know Jonas is here and can certainly clarify. I know the background music again is number 1. 2, I believe possibly June, but the September fall, he said starting in fall would be when they want it. Generally what we have done, again, like we just talked about in the summer house, where it's a maximum of 4 in July and August and 8 in June and September. You're looking at maybe 1 a week at most is generally where we go. And that's something you can certainly put on that. They didn't put a condition on the planning board.
What's the suggested ending time? 10 p.m.?
10 p.m.
Okay.
I think, and this is a larger discussion, but, a lot of these special permits have been a lot stricter and tighter on some than the older ones were. I think 10 p.m. across the board, which I think even Boston has, is fair that we keep it at that number.
Good. And I understand the third, the live inside.
Correct.
Okay. And that's still 10 as well. What's being asked.
Yeah, for the live,
The
yes.
live inside, or is it?
Because sorry.
In the area, there's a lot of 1 a.m., but this is being asked for 10 a.m.
10
Sorry,
p.m. for a live person. The pre-recorded background music interior is allowed across the board,
Right. Okay. All right. Does everybody have the basics down? Okay. All right. Any public comment? This is a public hearing. Whoever gets to the microphone first. All right, Jonas. Sorry.
I'll be quick. Honestly, I will. Jonas Baker, speaking on behalf of the Brotherhood. I am a partner in the Brotherhood, along with being the general manager. I spend probably 70 plus hours in the facility now and through the summer, year round. I'm back in the business. So that being said, I think the goal, as everything, is to be stewards in the restaurant business and stewards in the neighborhood. The goal is not to, go outside the box. We are in the restaurant business to serve people dine, sitting down, and that's our main thing. Our business model revolves around seated people, turning tables, putting out good food, affordable price year round. That's the business model of Serve Well Hospitality. That's why I joined the group. That being said, I'm not going to harp on it. Our goal with the patio, they wanted to be very fair about it and say there were some concerns in the neighborhood. Hey, let's give it a shot. They said, fine, no background music, seated. There's been no opposition. We've been good stewards of that. We want to continue that. The goal is to give them an enhanced experience and say, okay, there's some background music. We're not in the music of being DJs. We're not anything like that. It's just background music for the guests. They got approved for 11. We're like, there's no reason for that. Let's call it 10 o'clock. Let's be in line with everything else. There's a noise ordinance in the town. Once again, just trying to follow the guidelines and show that we are stewards of, running a good business. That being said, the interior downstairs acoustic piece got added in because it's been there forever. We were trying to get all of these things that are out in space and pull them in and say, this is the box. We serve dinner until 10 o'clock. So to have acoustic music at 10 o'clock, it doesn't fit our business model really, because we make more money serving people food and beverages. That's what we're in the business of doing. So that piece is here or there. If you guys are for it, I don't want there to be a lot against it, because to us, it was just, if it ever happened, we'd want it to be in the guidelines and say, okay, we got approved to do it. So it's not like we want to have somebody in there every night. We serve dinner. You can call it 9:59. We'll seat you and serve you dinner. I can't do that if someone's playing acoustic guitar. That being said, that's the other piece. The third piece is the addition to some fall or spring functions. As you know, we do stay open year round. Anyone who runs a business here year round knows it's not really lucrative all winter. We do it as a sort of to keep year-round people employed, to provide services to people who live on the island as in a place to go eat. We're trying to do it at an affordable price. So I'm very open booked here, and that's the goal of the thing, is to run a respectable restaurant. We do know that there's concerns with the neighbors. My goal is to work with everyone and try and do whatever we can do to whatever concerns you have. Let's work together instead of working against each other. That's the goal. I know there's some comments that are going to be big. I'm more than welcome to open. Amy and I walked today. I was like, what if we did something over here? What if we did this? If that's a concern, let's talk about it and let's just get it done. So I'm going to leave it at that. The main thing is to just enhance their experience with the background music for lunch and dinner. Like I said, we were supposed to do it today. It's weather pending. We didn't. We have a very functional setup in there, and we just want to be able to utilize all the revenue centers to enhance and stay open. So, Ann.
Thank you, Jonas.
My name's Ann Lingaman Davis, 10 Ash Street. Just for some background, back in March 23 of the neighbors signed a letter opposing the Brotherhood's application that went before the planning board last month. The planning board granted them a significant expansion of their special permit to allow for standing service and outdoor music. We are here to ask the board to consider the neighborhood opposition and set some limits on this license, specifically with regard to the changes on the patio. First, music. The Jared Coffin House was used as an example of a nearby establishment that has patio music. We don't hear their music or guests because that building is a brick fortress and the music is entirely on Broad Street. The Brotherhood patio in a different location behind the building, behind the Bookworks, and it abuts Ash Lane, just feet from the residents. How can the volume be controlled? I'd like to ask that music not be audible beyond the premises. Second, stand-up events, which the applicant initially said would be Chamber of Commerce meet and greets. At the planning board hearing, weddings were discussed. And in the fall and spring, I mean, this could be weddings all the time. And please set a limit of twice a month for these patio special events. We all love the Brotherhood as it has been operating, but the balance has been tipped to favor the applicant's commercial expansion at a cost to us as residents. If there are not stronger restrictions put on this license, there will be a detrimental effect on what is now a quiet, historic, idyllic, family-oriented neighborhood. Please limit outdoor events to twice a month and music volume to be audible only on premises. For 57 years, my family has been in our house on Ash and not listened to the JC or the Brotherhood. Why should we now?
Thank you.
Hello. Roberta Santamore, 2 Ash Lane. Just last year, the select board chair, Mr. Beverages, you said after hours of hearing testimony from all the neighbors, if you guys remember, you said, quote, "This is going to be watched very closely and listened to very closely from the neighbors. The applicant is on notice. There is no room for creep." Creep was the word you used. And this application, it is the very definition of creep. I don't know what is otherwise. What has changed in the last 365 days since we reviewed this application and you guys denied music on the patio? Additionally, in the last 20 years, music has come up again in front of the select board, as Amy has said, and it's been denied over and over and over and over again, 4 times to be exact. We are also changing the definition of how the patio is being used. It was a family restaurant originally when it got licensed, and now we are moving towards entertainment, stand-up and music. I dare say creeping away from the family restaurant that we once had. Additionally, what has transpired in the last 365 days to justify adding these 3 really big things? Well, I will tell you that I witnessed their brazen attitude towards music hour limits by signing contracts with bands and exceeding the very license that you guys put together 365 days ago. I witnessed the violations, I recorded the violations, and I submitted those violations to Amy and to the license board. To me, here we are 1 year later. Instead of the Brotherhood getting their hands slapped, they are getting rewarded. And at who's lost? The neighbors and the neighborhood that's, directly abutting this. So I ask, what now? What happens now? I continue to ask Amy how we are going to restrict them or follow up, because obviously me recording them and reporting them didn't do anything. I want to know how we're going to keep the count at 80, especially if you're thinking about a wedding. What is the level of music that's appropriate? What kind of music? How loud is it going to get? It's pretty subjective if I'm calling up and saying, hey, there's a noise complaint here, right? And someone's saying, oh, I'm not sure I find that to be a noise complaint. 4 speakers, I think, is a little bit too much, especially when we talk about creep. Again, 0 for 20 years, and all of a sudden we're bounced up to 4. And then I would also say, in terms of the special license and having, I think you said 1 event per week, that's a special, event space. We didn't sign up to live next to a special event space. We signed up to live next to a restaurant, and that's what it was zoned for. So I'd like to just let you guys marinate on where do we go from here. Obviously, Jonas seems like a very reasonable person. We obviously had issues and violations, not just with music, but with other things that's obviously not in your purview. So I'm not talking about those. And hopefully that changes going forward in the next year. But I do want to be on record to say that we will be back here in another 365 days because it is a creep. It was a creep last year. It's a creep this year. I'll see you next year. I'll see you the next year after that, because it's Groundhog's Day. They're going to get a little bit now and a little bit now and a little bit now, a little bit now. And it all affects the neighbors. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Amy, what were the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, John Pressman, also on Ash Lane with the neighbors. Look, this is obviously a very polarizing issue. And on one side, you have Jonas, who seems very reasonable. And he's just trying to do a good job building a restaurant, serving the community. And that's a very appealing notion, frankly, to me, as somebody who loves this island. At the same time, we have a group of neighbors that we live amongst, who are also really good people who love this island, have lived here for decades. And we're trying to strike that balance. You're trying to strike that balance, serving the community and not disrupting the lives of those who also love the community and just want to enjoy their homes. And I think the tipping point and the real issue, as you can sense from all the speakers, is the music issue, is the noise. And it's not a concern without some basis. I mean, it's certainly had basis over the last year since you approved the license last year. There were complaints. I did see the bands there after hours on a number of occasions. It wasn't just 4. I did speak with the bands. They did say they signed contracts to go beyond the 10 o'clock curfew that you had imposed, that the agreements themselves said later hours. But let's give Jonas the benefit of the doubt and say he's going to work and improve things. It'll be better. I don't think the answer is to all of a sudden just sort of open the floodgates and allow them much more leeway in that direction than they currently have. So I think what we hear from the neighbors, first of all, I applaud Jonas on the 10 p.m. agreement. I think that's a great start. It shows a lot of goodwill. With respect to the patio, do we have to go immediately to 4 speakers? Do we frankly have to include background music that has vocals? Can we start at instrumental music? I think there's ways to sort of get a little further, but not all the way to the point that you're going to shock the neighborhood in a way that I think the thought of this application has and does. And so I would echo what Ms. St. Amour said and what Ms. Davis said and what a number of other speakers I know who may present today will say, which is right now, it's only been 365 days. There were issues, and let's see if they can iron that out under new management with somebody who appears to be a good person who's going to try to do the right thing and wait for the other 365 to pass. But if you're going to allow additional music of some sort, let's keep it limited. Let's reduce the number of speakers. Let's make sure they're all pointed towards Broad Street. And let's perhaps limit it to instrumental rather than vocals. Do something that kind of strikes the balance, because it is a tipping point. And at some point, the balance will be imbalanced. And we hope it's not today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jonas Baker, just want to reiterate. So we have no problem with working with all of this. I went through it with Ann today, whether it's 2 speakers, 4 speakers. The goal was with 4 speakers, you wouldn't need it to be as loud. They would be dissipated in a larger area, less volume. I understand all these concerns. One thing leads to another. We're in the hospitality business. It's been a restaurant. I'm not trying to do anything. It's outside the box here. Up the street, the Jared Coffin has outside speakers. It's in their license. It states it very clearly. They can have outdoor music playing. So that is all a farce. All of this about signing contracts with bands. Yes, we have someone who does sign a contract to be inside the building, and that's inside the building. There's no exterior. Yes, we try to get them there at 8 o'clock. We try to get them there at 10. We went through all this at the planning board. I explained that I'm very diligent in trying to get this done, and I am in charge. I'm the one you're going to come to and say, you messed up. So to me, my 32 years of being on island and being in the restaurant business, I think there is something that I stand for, and that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to reiterate again, because most people weren't at the planning board meeting and was there for 2 hours while I went through this. So I'm giving you my word that I'm doing this. I am a steward. How will the occupancy be maintained? I'm in charge of it. I'm legally in charge of it. So I'm going to be held accountable, and that's what you guys should do. And if there is a problem, I will address it. Me and Amy have worked together for a long time. So I shouldn't say 30, but a long time. I've helped, get some things passed. I just want to enhance the experience. And like I said, this downstairs with adding music, take it off the board. I have no problem. Less is more. We're just trying to literally show you that we can do a good job. That's it.
Thank you. Amy?
If I may just address a couple of things. One, the speakers that we're talking about are already there. They've been there. Those speakers are existing. They're not something new they're going to put in. I went down there today. I've been at events there in the past. This is something similar to where we're pulling everything up into compliance now. A lot of folks for years didn't think pre-recorded background music required an entertainment license. I included the law in there, and when it includes alcohol, it does. And again, we've been bringing everyone up into compliance. So the history here is I've been at several events at that location and that back bar standing with lots of people, especially at Stroll. So it has gone on. And again, those speakers were built into that patio. They're there. So they're not new. So we're just trying to bring that back into that equation too. And wedding versus, we brought up the chamber. We did bring that up at the planning board because that was an event that the chamber wanted to have an after hours reception like they do. And we're not able to because of the seating only requirements. So that's why that was brought up, whether it's wedding, whether it's whatever, it's 80 people regardless. And again, I believe the limitation is fair. that they brought up too as well. So, and again, there were 3 police reports from one of the neighbors as far as noise. The police were sent and there was not noise at the time of their arrival. Again, I spoke with the neighbors as far as committing to having a direct line with us as well for license violations such as that contract and other concerns they have that don't require maybe an immediate police response, but that we can certainly respond to. And secondly, or thirdly here, again, like Jonas mentioned, if there's anyone I 100% trust and that responds literally, I'm still pushing send on an email and he's calling me, Amy, we'll get on that. Absolutely, that's Jonas. So I can certainly say that I trust that. When we walked around today, we talked about certain ways that things they can put up, help. Certainly, I know Davis property there. Yes, it's right on that corner, something to help with the line of sight and blocking some of that noise and working on that. They, interior have the double pane windows, the noise prevention, insulation, things of that sort. So they have made steps in that area. And I know he's committed to working with them on that. So I just wanted to make sure we all had that.
Board have any questions or comments? Want to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any comments or questions?
I think the main thing that I feel that we need to address is putting a limitation on the events. And I think the suggestion of no more than twice a month is a good one, but I would probably take it a step further and say like no more than 8 a year. And see how that goes.
I was thinking along the lines, but I was thinking more 10 a year, but
10 year.
well,
that
if
would,
there's a chamber event in February,
Right.
if there's, but saying there's nothing in June, July, or August, or May 15th, or so I like having an 8 or 10, but then also
maybe something like 10 a year, but none of them to be between June 15th and September 15th.
no more than 2 a month, or
And right, certainly.
I think that's somewhere to start on that one of the 3 issues. So I did write down the 2 limitations of twice a month and music not be audible. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, that's my main thing. Obviously, if the noise stops at 10, I mean, anyone can play music anywhere until 10 is what our bylaw says. So if it's out of control, there's going to be complaints and we're going to have to address it. And Jonas is going to have to deal with that. But there was music here before with the previous owners. And this is coming into bringing compliance because there was confusion with licensing. And I have no problems with bringing back the acoustic music till 10 o'clock in the downstairs brick part of the building. Yeah. So, I mean, I would be inclined to make a motion to that effect. Outdoor music done at 10, background music only. Acoustic music downstairs and events to none between June and September 15th, no more than twice a month and no more than 10 per year.
Mr. Chair, is there a way to, I know this is difficult, but the volume of music, control the volume of music, we've heard discussion of that.
What's your question?
And is there a way to control the volume of music?
We've been talking about that for a long time on decibel meters and it doesn't work. And sometimes it bounces off something else and then you could hear it at this house. And I think it just needs to be no complaint. It needs to be so quiet that it's not heard anywhere else. I mean, I've eaten outside a lot. I don't really feel it. It needs music. I'm happy to approve it, but I don't feel like it doesn't need loud music because the louder the crowd gets, louder the music gets.
Yeah, you should be able to have a normal conversation without struggling for that. And we certainly are committed to trying to have more standard requirements. This whole process has certainly alerted me to that fact too as well. So it's, kind of across the board. Obviously decibel meters are tough, as I've had a decibel meter at ground and walked a couple blocks away and the traffic made the same decibel noise. So that was difficult to measure. Certainly not exceeding past property lines is certainly a goal. Or I think our street performer is 60 decibels at 60 feet, whatever it is. So we have certain things in the noise bylaw, as we just talked about with the Summer House, I believe on their license, it's not to exceed the decibel limit in the noise ordinance guideline. So I would have to go reread that as well. So, but currently it's tough to really put a number on that.
So Amy, you just said not to be audible at neighboring properties. Is
Well,
that- how do you?
That's difficult. I mean, I went and looked at the properties today, and the one there on Ash Lane that they just have here is literally here, the fence, the hood for the restaurant. I mean, it feels like part of the restaurant. It is right there. And then of course, the Davis house there on the corner that looks kind of into the patio area as well. So that's why Jonas was talking of some sorts of barriers to help with that and help deflect that. So they're certainly thinking of that. And in the past, we certainly asked for, and I think Muse or some other areas too, for some noise mitigation efforts that they were going to put in that area as well. Now the tap room on that patio, we had issues with the TV and had to have them do certain things to, lessen that impact. So that's certainly something that can be put in there to have further noise mitigation put in by the business.
So I want to give background for some of my board members, maybe who weren't here on the creep reference. It's a good one. A good reference and research. I did say that what we were going up against at the time was, what we thought was going to be Cisco Brewery at this place. Like people were going to be standing up, and that's what we were envisioning. And so, and that's kind of what was proposed in the beginning, and it was backed off. And so that when I met Creep, I didn't want to see anything outside of what we allowed them to do. I wanted to see how it would go for a year. And I was okay doing a little more, but we kind of put them on notice and said, no music. Let's just see how it goes. I feel like it was, I think I give them a B+. But now with Jonas, for me, that pushes it over the edge because of the 30 years experience. And I really kind of lean heavily on reputation and trust with management. And I think last year we didn't know a lot of those, the management. It was kind of new. And so we were a little more protective. And so I feel more comfortable with where Don is, what you laid out. I think it's in everybody's best interest to keep that music low as possible and keep everybody happy there. And, I think the customers aren't going to know any difference if there's music or not. That's my opinion on it.
Can I ask the applicant a question? Is that?
We close the public hearing.
Okay.
I mean, if we
Well, I'm curious why the need for that music outdoors? I should have asked her in the public hearing. It just occurs to me.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
I think it's just in the hospitality business, you want to keep the experience of what you're doing going. I used to play reggae when I owned Lola before Lola. They're like, why are you playing reggae at a sushi bar? It keeps everybody in a constant, almost like a mellowness mood. And that's what part of the hospitality is creating the ambiance of having a great experience when you come to eat, what you're eating, the people you're with. So it's all based around that. It's low level back music. I can assure you, I do not want a DJ, a rock band, anything. I'm in the food business. I'm not in the bar business. That's where I'm at. And I don't know how else to explain it, but that's part of hospitality, is giving that whole experience. When you step in and when you leave. Did I say hello to you? Did I say goodbye to you? You're trying to give them an experience.
Thank you. That's helpful.
No, you didn't make a motion, but you suggest.
I did
Oh,
actually.
I don't know if
but
you said
don't
this
think there's
motion.
been a second yet.
Oh, okay. Well, is there a second on Don's motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on that motion?
We're on this, all right, sorry, nothing. I'm still concerned about the noise, but
On the patio?
yes,
With the speakers?
everything else is fine.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I would add when we talk about noise mitigation, like how do we put that in the motion or how do we put that in what we're approving? If that's our goal.
I mean, like Jason said, we've talked about the decibels. I mean, there's
Yeah.
way more complaints with like construction equipment and how loud that is. I mean, what I personally find now, if I go out to dinner with people and we can't hear each other talk, they don't want to go there anymore. So, I mean, maybe some people
Yeah.
prefer to listen to the music and not talk to who they're with. It's not usually the reason. And it's ending at 10.
Yeah,
It's not creeping into the late night in any way. I can play my speakers on my porch. I
You
mean,
make a good point. Like
till
anybody can
10.
play anything till 10. We always could limit it to earlier, but that's dinner service till 10. Put any limitations on it we want, but
Yeah,
there's a motion.
you know, is
I
that
mean, we could always change this if it becomes like a really big problem in the future.
But we know it takes 2 weeks to do that. Amy?
Well, you do have, I'm thinking about when I lived downtown, across from the Lobster Trap, and we had that experience where they had live bands and it was too much. There was 3 complaints. They came in, and then you limited it back to 10. And I sat in my bedroom and listened to them complain about the town, making them stop at 10. So, it has happened before where you have brought it in here and you've had dealt with it. And now they don't really play so much. So, you have the history of that.
Any other comments? No.
Yeah, I mean, as an in-town resident in the summer, I'm often chasing around trying to find where the noise is coming from. That's almost impossible. And I once complained to the police. I got a very nice long letter from them explaining why they couldn't really enforce it. It's true. I could probably say, well, I'm close to the brotherhood and I should not vote, but that would be cowardly. So I'm going to go ahead and support the motion.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. It's a good discussion.
May I repeat it back?
Yes.
Okay, so we have low-level pre-recorded background music on the patio until 10 p.m. Stand-up service is allowed on the patio, special events only when closed to the public. No more than twice a month with a total of 10 per year, with the exclusion of June 15th to September 15th. Additionally, acoustic live music is allowed on the lower level until 10 p.m.
Correct.
That's the motion. Okay. Anything from you, Libby, town manager's report? Thank you, Amy.
I don't have a prepared report, but I wanted to note some upcoming items at future meetings. So next week, you are swearing in at 10 a.m. at the courtroom,
Back at the courtroom.
back at the courtroom. Next Wednesday, you have a committee meeting with some real estate items. You have your regular Wednesday meeting with some announcements and some real estate items. We're going to have a DPW facility update, and this will be a review of the 2 sites. I think I mentioned this at town meeting. Our engineer is evaluating each, and we're going to give you an update of where we are in that. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update of annual town meeting and annual town election follow-up. Just I normally do this, just kind of going over what town admin will be doing for various types of follow-up. Just make a note that you might remember pedicab discussion. And that was sent off to BPAC and traffic safety, and it was potentially going to come up next week, but I'm not sure right now that they have completed their review. So that may or may not come up. We do not have a meeting on the 31st. And in June, without mentioning specific dates, among other things, you have your annual governance workshop, a meeting with the planning board, planning commission, and conservation commission, I think it is, with regard to the strategic plan. And you will, beginning at the end of June, you're going to be having some discussions about special town meeting warrant articles. And I think there might be an update from the short-term rental work group on the 14th. That's tentative. The 21st, you do not have a meeting. On the 28th, you are definitely reviewing warrant articles with the special. And into July, that is going to be happening almost every week, if not every week.
Because the end of July has to be, when's the for articles for a special town meeting?
Well, there's a brief window for citizen petitions. And the board is scheduled to adopt the warrant on August 16th.
We'll be here quick.
Yeah, they will be there quick.
It's going to be here so quick.
Lastly, I also want to express thanks and appreciation to Jason for his service, his support for town administration, and his very unique understanding of town operations and administration when he was a town employee in town administration. And that, I think, has given you a perspective that you might not otherwise have had. So we appreciate your support very much. And but I'm not saying goodbye, because we'll see you around.
Thank you, Libby. Okay, any select board reports or comments? Committee reports? I said one thing, I was trying to say this for the end. I got through most of it, so don't worry, it won't be very long. I really enjoyed serving. And that's really what this was be able to hopefully give back to the community and be a part of something, whether, policy and making a positive change. But one thing I forgot to say earlier was I could not have done this without my wife. When we were sitting at Lola at the bar, and I said, should I put my papers in? Like, this is a lot. Like, you're gonna, and she said, yeah, I think you should go for it. And then I was elected, and then we had our first child. We had Eloise, and then it was a really big decision to run again. Didn't know if I'd be elected or not, but it's like, this is going to be a lot. We had a young child at home, and to run again. And she said, I think you should do it, but this is going to be a lot on you. She's like, got it. So there's no way I could have done this at all without Courtney. And she gave me the confidence to even just throw my hat in the ring, and also gave me the chance to do this on Wednesday nights and all the other nights. And when I'd have to go upstairs and just read the packet on a Sunday, especially the first couple of years when you have to read everything. And she really took all that burden on for our family life so I could do this. So I need to really thank my wife and my family. And I really am going to miss discussing, arguing, figuring things out with you all. And good luck. Good luck to you all this next year. Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
You want to second your own motion too?
I can't.
We get Eloise.
Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
And there's cupcakes, please. Jason, Tucker, Brian, please take some.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jason, your kids could eat these cupcakes.